Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 78 right here on Sifted Games. Today we got a great show for you. We're going to go over all the big updates to No Man's Sky, which I know Matt is pretty happy about.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about my impressions of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
It's his chance, finally, after I've been yapping about it for a couple weeks. And lastly, is 2017 the best year ever for video games? We're going to investigate. Let's do it. Greetings, Sifters! It's Friday afternoon. Hope you guys are all primed and ready for the weekend. I know we are. I have a ton of games that I need to play. I have literally just given, I feel like, my life over to Zelda Breath of the Wild. I've been waiting to play Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier Automata, Ghost Recon Wildlands. Lots of good... Dude, this is like March, by the way. I mean, this last, 30 days may have been better than Q4 of 2016.
Unequivocally better.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. That's one of the topics on today's show, just how strong 2017 is already, and still lots of great stuff on the horizon as well. But first, we're going to talk about a game that you and I threw down on once upon a time on GameFace, No Man's Sky. Certainly a polarizing game. I don't even know if I could say it's like a love it or hate it thing. It feels like people are all over the map over this game.
It's either more of a hate it or see the potential sort of.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it.
I don't know if anybody really loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved elements of it, but that's the thing is the haters are real adamant. And someone who loved it, I've called it my game of the year last year, but you could sit there and scream criticisms about the game at me for 10 minutes, and I'd just be like, yep.
You're right.
Yep, you're right. That's true. That's very true. Yep. But they are working to improve it, to their credit. I mean,
which came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, they said they were going to
underground for months.
Well, I think if there's one lesson Hello Games seems to have taken from this, it's just don't talk.
Just shut up.
Just shut up and do your work and let us know when it's ready.
Has anyone seen Sean Murray still? Is he alive?
Well, he was at GDC. He did the panel at GDC.
Oh, he did.
Which I didn't get to see, but
I'm surprised no interviews came out of that. Actually, I'm not that surprised. I'm guessing he was probably
nope. Yeah. No shoes, no service.
Yeah, but it's crazy that he still has not come forward to answer all the criticism that's kind of been leveled at him. And I mean, on a certain level, I understand it, because one thing you learn after you deal with the internet long enough is that there's no winning, because it's you versus millions and millions of people.
Right.
And there are literally millions of people who are angry at him over No Man's Sky, and I think some people would say not rightfully so. But
it's been a while.
Yeah, there's been a cooling off period. But I still feel like there are people who will probably go after him once he resurfaces.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think he's safe or anything like that.
Man, if Peter Molyneux doesn't get a pass, he's not. I mean, at least Peter Molyneux made some good games first.
I mean, the internet never forgets. There are people online who still give me crap about things I said on Invisible Walls literally 8 years ago.
Oh, we were 8
years ago.
We were digging around through old X-Play videos.
Yeah.
Some of us in our Slack chat about X-Play, and I dug up one video where it was old videos. I think it's called the channel called X-Play back in the day, and they have all the old stuff from Tech TV. And the first comment on the first video I looked at was still salty about them giving Crisis Core 2. And I'm like, it was 9 years ago and that game blew.
Yeah.
That game blew.
People can't get over it. I don't understand it, man.
And it's not like it mattered. It's not like we impacted sales. Crisis Core sold through the frickin' roof.
Well, it's so funny too how
it's bulletproof.
You can, I mean, how many episodes did X-Play ultimately do?
1,300 something.
Right, 1,300. Yeah. I mean, there were almost 300 episodes of Invisible Walls. Each one of those was you start thinking about it, you're like, okay, so, I put on tape hundreds and hundreds of hours of commentary about video games. That doesn't even count bonus round and other stuff I did on GT. And people will point to one thing I said and be like, he's disqualified from being relevant. It's are you freaking kidding me? What the hell?
I got my first death threats against me personally. I mean, we, obviously the hosts got hate mail all the time.
Yeah.
But my first actual death threats to me were from my Force Unleashed review.
I'm sure. Star Wars fans are a hardy bunch.
Well, I know I am a Star Wars
one of them,
fan,
yeah.
but like that's also why I didn't like Force Unleashed very much.
Yeah.
But it's just like, yeah, you latch onto that one thing, what's that one game that's important to you, and you're just like, that guy is an idiot. I started to look through old back issues of Video Games and Computer Entertainment magazine.
Yeah.
A magazine that Andy Eddy used to run, and I'm getting reacquainted with all the writers who I hated when I was a kid because they gave bad reviews to games that I would never play.
Yeah.
Like games I thought looked cool in the ads and the previews, and then it came out and they're like, nah, it's not very good. I'm like, what do you know? You know, I'm like, I've never, there are Amiga games that I probably never saw in my entire life to this day.
Yeah.
But I still was like, that guy hated Sword of Sodan. And Sword of Sodan is a terrible freaking game. Like, he was totally right.
Well, it's that old adage of, 7 out of 10 angry people share it with somebody else. Like,
Right.
2 out of 10 people who are happy will actually share their happiness with somebody else over something. So, just kind of the nature of the beast. But let's get back to No Man's Sky. So, released a Pathfinder update, has land-based vehicles. And you've been fiddling around with it. Is there any reason to have these?
Ostensibly, it's so you can traverse the planet faster and easier, and like they've got storage space, so you can and there's like certain things you have to have a vehicle-based laser to mine now. So they're basically like, you've got like there's a little guy that's like a little, so right there you're seeing the main medium rover, so that can drive over anything and can drive really slow underwater. I don't think it's actually supposed to go underwater, but you can still do it.
Just seeing that temperature level stabilizing just took me back to last year when I played this game.
Temperature stabilizing. And like, so you can drive around like this. It's a little janky still. It's not too far off the Mako from Mass Effect 1.
Yeah, it looks a lot like it. Yeah.
There's geometry problems. It gets stuck on things. The big one, there's a bigger one, and it's like a giant like rolling tank kind of cargo thing. It looks kind of like the rolling turbo tank things from those Clone Wars a little bit, and or a sand crawler, like a mix between that and a sand crawler, and like that thing can't go up hills. It gets stuck on trees. It's kind of a mess still. But like just buggying around like this is pretty fun. The problem is if something happens and you get stuck, then you're like, well, you gotta walk all the way back to your ship, and it's like, what are you gonna do? And the hover skimmer, the little one, is cool because you can hover on water.
Okay.
So it's like you can fly,
traverse over
you
water.
can traverse over water easily. The thing is like, it's a really cool like functionality. But like, as anyone who's played the game knows, there's nothing to see. Like, there's nowhere to go. Like in Mass Effect, when you're driving around in the Mako, at least like you might find a Prothean ruin or a little like outpost with like a fight to be had, or like, rare minerals somewhere. And like, yeah, you might find rare minerals, but it's like not anything you wouldn't find more efficiently by just hopping in your ship and flying to it. And, the only reason to use the vehicles is to get the rare minerals that you can only get by using a vehicle-mounted laser now.
Okay.
Which is a very specific situation. So, like on one hand, it's like it's a really cool addition because it makes it feel more like you have like a presence on the planet and there's a different way to get around. It's better than doing the jetpack jump thing. But at the same time, it doesn't take too long before you're kind of like, wait a minute, this is stupid. This is like it's fun, but it's stupid. You know what I mean? Like it's like you there's a point at which you suddenly realize that what you're doing is just the same thing you were doing before. There's the hover thing right there, and there's the big tank thing.
Yeah.
What you're doing is kind of the same thing you were doing, except it kind of makes it more inconvenient if you screw up.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, is there a point to it? I don't get it. Like, you already have the ship that you can fly low.
Yeah, and they the exocraft still require fuel and stuff. It's just another thing to kind of babysit in some ways. And like I said, it's fun to buggy around, but it doesn't really change the game in any appreciable way, in my opinion. Like it's just like it feels like something that should have been there from the beginning, but it's also something that doesn't really improve anything in terms of like the gameplay loop. Right. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does make perfect sense. Yeah.
So like it's cool. The other update things in the update are actually way better to me. Like the quality of life stuff.
That's what I was going to ask you. What else is in this update?
Well, for one thing, they got rid of having to hold the button on the menus. To
good.
Things. So you just most stuff now, like I'd say, like 80-90% of the stuff, you just press the button and it's there. It's done. Like there's no more hold the button, wait for the circle to fill stuff, except on things that really matter, like options, quit the menu, load, save game, stuff like that. There's a lot more aliens everywhere. Like I went to the space station after the update, and now there's like the guys you can hire for your base, but then there's another guy who's like a quest guy, and there's a guy who like sells you blueprints, so there's like 8 or 9 aliens in this room, which previously used to be like one in every room, and they all turn and go like the same. It was like walking into Cheers. They're like Norm. I'm like, okay, whoa, hey everybody, what's up? And like so, yeah, but the main thing you'll notice is they put high-res textures in. And fixed a bunch of stuff in terms of the graphical quality.
Which version are you playing?
I've been playing the PS4 Pro and PC. Okay. And let me tell you, on the PS4 Pro, this thing is in high res now, and it runs at 60 frames a second.
Wow, that's
rock
great.
solid.
Wow.
It is almost as good as playing the PC version if you have a PS4 Pro. It looks fantastic.
That's great.
They really cleaned it up. And the draw distance is a little better. It doesn't fade in quite as terribly. Although it still does fade in. Yeah. There's a much larger variety of sounds. Like they revamped the sounds tremendously. Like the spaceships, like you'll hear different like retro rocket sounds when you're turning. Like clearly you can hear different machinery working when you turn versus when you thrust versus when you brake. The creatures make all kinds of new sounds. Like you remember, they all kind of sounded like the same kind of rawr thing before. Like now, like you walk out of the base on a habitated planet, and you will hear all different sounds now that make a little more sense for what the creatures are, because they all kind of sounded like the same thing. Now they've added a lot more variety. There is what else was there's a ton of stuff in this thing.
It seems like interesting. They've chosen interesting things to update.
Yeah. It's like, it seems to be
I don't know if that would be my hot list of things to change with the game.
Well, the UI change with the holding the button thing, like that should have been 2 updates ago. Right. But like, it feels to me like, you know, they've got a target for, you know, like the Foundation one was base building and freighters, and this one is, you know, vehicles. And I feel like the rest of it is like they must have like a giant master list, and whatever they can get done in time for each patch, that's what goes in the patch.
When are they putting out the fun DLC?
I'm hoping that'll be every 5 months seems to be the big update. So I'm hoping in August or September we get the one that adds the game.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like I think I said back then, it's like if you know the what was released, like if I'd played that as like an alpha, I would have been like, wow, this game's gonna be great when it's done.
Yeah. It's like the first time I checked out Minecraft, I was like, that's kind of janky, but
Right, but so I think like if they have one more big update in them, like 5 to 6 months from now, I think this game's going to be great about a year after it was released. And I think it.
Hey, the way games are nowadays, it's like
true, but it's like it should have been held back a year. I mean, not that I would have wanted to not play it, because I still enjoyed playing it last year. But like this game clearly wasn't done. And the funny thing is, like these updates are diverging from what I think is the intended path of the game. Like I think they made this game with the idea that exploration was enough, and all the updates are kind of pushing it more in a Minecraft direction, which I think is due entirely to audience feedback.
I'm sure.
Like players, because
they're like, I want something to do.
I mean, they were proud of having no fetch quests in it, and like the first thing the Foundation thing adds was some fetch quests, because like, yeah, give me something to go do.
Yeah.
Like, give me an objective. I mean, I love looking at these crazy worlds, but it's like you got to give me something to do on them. There's got to be, even if it's just make your own fun, like in Zelda. I have to actually have a possibility of encountering something that could change what I'm doing, because I have to adjust to the situation. They also added a photo mode. I mean, they had a photo mode before, but they've enhanced it. You can pull back and move the camera all over the place. You can place the sun, the lighting place wherever you want to place it.
Interesting.
So you can make some really dramatic shots. It looks really good. And
are people still playing this game?
They did come back for Foundation. I didn't see any player numbers for this yet. The problem is they're releasing this right in the middle of the greatest game release schedule since 1998.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, look, man, you know how much I love this game, but like, I played it for like an hour just to see what was there, and I went right back to Zelda. I mean, it's like it's not going to tear me away from what I'm playing right now. In part because like, I feel like they're on the right track with this game, but part of me is just like, I'm just going to wait one more update until I really dive back. Because they keep changing stuff, and they've changed, like, you can own more than one ship now. They've changed.
That's good.
Remember the old upgrade grind where everything
Yeah.
was only one plus or minus the inventory slots now that can be anything. Like,
Okay,
that's more
that's
random
good.
now, so you can upgrade faster. There's new blueprints to build new things on your base. You can buy blueprints for stuff instead of finding it. There's a whole there's like a nanite something, like a nano currency now you can use to trade in for other things.
There's a lot of updates.
You can
this
build
is a big one.
You can build you'd have farms and stuff in the bases before, but like they changed some stuff up. But I mean, in the old update, there was I don't remember what the mineral was, but you could grow a certain type of resource and turn it into a manufactured thing you could make like 20 million credits an hour.
Wow.
I mean, like
Was that a
literal
glitch?
farming. No, it was like intent. I mean,
Legit.
I think they adjusted some of the prices, so it's not quite as extreme now. But remember, like, the freighters cost like 13 million.
Right.
I mean, like the economy is up.
Yeah.
You need millions of credits now. So it's cool. I don't know. I wouldn't quite say it's like ready to jump back in if you hated the game or anything. But if you're like, this is cool, if you played the game back in the day and you're like, this is pretty cool, like, I think there's potential here, but it's just not doing it. Like, it might be a good time to try it, or maybe wait for one more update. Just to see where they go, because
this is free, right?
Yes, because they still haven't expanded the the space combat stuff or any of the faction stuff is still not in there. There's still no multiplayer. That's the thing that I'm waiting. I mean, I think
that's the thing everybody's waiting for.
Well, I don't care about multiplayer. I never intended to see another human being in this game anyway. But that's Sean Murray. You talk about Sean Murray hasn't really popped up recently.
Yeah.
Well, he shouldn't pop up, in my opinion, until they have a multiplayer solution. Then he should pop up and explain what the frick happened there.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, because that's the big thing to me is like...
That's what people keep dredging up over and over. Is that interview where he says...
Well, he said it in multiple interviews, and it was talking about how you can grief other players, and like I mean, okay, like technically, I griefed a guy by renaming the planets in the star system he didn't rename to make fun of him.
Right.
That was technically griefing a player, but that's not what anybody's thinking of when they ask you, can you grief someone in this game?
No, you're absolutely right.
And that was multiple interviews. I consumed every imaginable piece of media on that game when it was coming out because I was excited about it. And he flat out absolutely said that, because almost everything else he talked about in the game you can find in some permutation in the game that sort of kind of satisfies you. Like, okay, yeah, technically you can find brontosaurus looking things,
right.
But there is no multiplayer code in the game. Period. It wasn't there. It's not there. What were you talking about?
It may never be there.
It may never be there. You're right.
I mean,
but clearly that was the idea. They wanted it.
Yeah.
That was the idea, but it never happened. And up until a month and a half before release, he was still talking about it.
Right.
In those that little
Why
press
would he
tour.
do that?
I don't know. Maybe
knowing that a year later,
right?
It's still not
there.
I mean, obviously,
so it's not like you're
then.
they said they're going to have it ready in time, or like for the first day one patch or whatever. Like, you knew it wasn't there.
Right.
It was gold.
And I will say, when people were first going after him, I kind of defended him a little bit because I was like, look, man, like, it's game development. Things slip and features may not barely. Now that time has gone on and it's becoming apparent that he basically was lying. I mean, at this point, he was lying. Like, there's no way.
Like, he was either that or he's from another timeline. Like, I don't. It's like, because everything else,
my sympathy for him is waned a lot.
Well, everything else, like, other than the multiplayer stuff, for the most part, a lot, and also the whole like our planet's actually orbit, because that's not true, because the sun is just. And now, like, if the sun wasn't just a light source in the skybox, the photo mode wouldn't work the way it does. So, there you go.
Yeah.
You can put the sun literally anywhere.
That's pretty cool.
And see what it looks like. And, like, it's pretty neat to see all the different time of the day and how the light changes and stuff. But it does kind of drive home that, like, yeah, you're never going to have actual solar systems here, like Elite Dangerous or something.
You can't move the sun.
Which,
in the solar system.
to some degree, like, it's not. That's not.
Do you
not
need
what
it, though?
about. You
It's
don't really
like-
need it. Like, Elite Dangerous uses
That's
it because
way
that's
down the
what it's
list of
about.
requested features,
Right.
I think.
But, like, the thing is, like, he just hasn't. There's no defense for the multiplayer stuff.
Yeah.
There's no way to weasel out of that one.
Nope.
Like, you clearly knew it wasn't there. And
People are mostly forgiving. They don't seem to be very forgiving of video game journalists, but with developers, they do seem to be. And I feel like if he just came out and just said, I'm sorry, I was caught up in the launch hype, I hadn't slept for like 3 months straight, and I said things I shouldn't have said, I'm sorry, I apologize. I think that would go a long way. At a certain point, the silence doesn't help. And I think he needs with this update, it would have been perfect. He came out for GDC, said hello to everybody, hello games, for the first time in forever, kind of broke the ice. When this came out, it would have been great if he put out like a developer doc that just showed him playing it and maybe just talking casually about, in hindsight, I'm really sorry and I regret some of the things I said leading up to launch. People will forgive him.
Well, not everybody.
Not everyone, but
I feel like if maybe I will give him till the next update because I feel like maybe he's waiting until they have something to show on that front before doing. If you can say, yeah, I'm sorry, I talked about this and it wasn't a thing and we wanted it to be, but it wasn't. I don't know what came over me. I was drunk. I was drugged. I don't know what happened.
Well, I think the key is you can't make excuses.
No,
really.
but you got to explain what happened, and an explanation and apology will probably go down better if they have, progress on that front to show in this. Here's this new update. You can see each other now. You can coordinate because they're getting better. Like one of the other great things this update adds is you can go into your list of discovered star systems and press the A button and it waypoints that star system.
God.
You can go anywhere you've already been.
Thank God.
You can fly all over the galaxy and see all the stuff you've already seen. I can finally find my way back to the planet of the Swagasaurs.
Right.
And they are
that
still
video still getting views?
Yeah, now and then.
Swagasaurus Rex?
And they are still there. I went back there. I was actually happy that the last update kind of wiped a bunch of... There was a weird doubling up where if you went back to a star system, you got to rename it, but the old name was still in your log. Okay. But anything you renamed it overwrote the old one. So I did actually get to rename that planet of the Swagasaurs.
Oh, great.
Although it is a moon. It's not a planet, it's a moon. But if you can find that solar system, it's called Planet of the Swagasaurs is a moon of the planet Char.
Yeah.
And you can go see them.
Viral smash hit video.
I saw for a while there were people on the YouTube channel that were the posting in the comments about how they wanted to find that planet and exterminate them all. Because they said another thing he said in interviews is like there's a finite number of every animal on a planet.
So you can't exterminate.
So theoretically, if enough people went to that planet and just started killing Swagasaurs, they would go extinct eventually. Which is kind of like...
And that does show kind of the promise of this game. Mm-hmm. But finding the planet's the hard part, obviously, if you're not the person who...
There's like coordinates and there's things that people have sort of dug into to figure out, but it's very complicated.
Yeah.
Almost like navigating space.
Yeah, and probably not worth it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Everything's worth it to see the Swagasaur in person. You know that. And I found a female version now, too. Like, she's got a hump and feathers.
Oh, wow.
But she still walks like that. It's great.
All right, let's move along. So I've been talking about Zelda for, I think, 2 episodes in a row now. I did like a preview, and then I kind of gave my review, my pre-game eval impressions last week. Then my game eval went up late last night. It's on the site right now for you folks if you want to check it out. Matt, you've been playing a ton of Zelda this entire week. You never really had a chance to talk about it. So what are you thinking?
It's great.
10 out of 10, best game ever?
No. But what is?
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. It's... the best Zelda they've made in a long time. I mean, obviously. The open world really works.
Only Zelda they've made in a long time.
The only Zelda, yeah, true. But it is definitely my favorite since Wind Waker. I might even like it better than Wind Waker.
Yeah. I like it better than Wind Waker. I would say that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of riding across, traversing an open, empty plain, but the ground is a little more interesting than the water for the most part. I agree with pretty much everything you said about it last week. The exploration's great. Like you said, you're exploring for no real reason, and I think I said something like, "Well, that sounds exactly like up my alley," and it sure enough is because I just like seeing what's over the next hill in this game.
Yeah. Even if it looks like what was over the last hill.
Yeah, pretty much. But I will say this though. I am, so I'm running across a flat open plain of wilderness. I'm trying to find something interesting to look at or some important kind of crafting object. I'm carefully managing my stamina and my climbing ability, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't freeze or overheat to death. Am I talking about Breath of the Wild or No Man's Sky?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really
and I
good
don't
point.
mean that as a negative criticism, because everybody knows I love No Man's Sky, and this scratches that exact same itch.
Yeah, and I
in
wonder if a
exploration
lot
mode.
of the Zelda champions that are out there on the internet that are acting like a mob right now, by the way, were also fans of No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
Or if some of them said that No Man's Sky was a piece of garbage
Hard
and
to
now
say.
they love Zelda.
Well, here's the thing. In Zelda, you are going to probably find something interesting.
That's true. Yeah. When you eventually you're going to run into
Like-
something where you can actually do
Right.
something.
There's
yeah.
going to, you find that shrine and you're going to be able to solve a puzzle as opposed to just open a thing and read the text you've read 14 times before. So they are not equivalent, but they are a very similar loop. It's great. I love it. It's and especially the way they let you the way they let you fail, I guess, would be the thing I like. The fact that
And
like
fail you will.
Oh, and fail you will. But it's just like oh, you think you can climb that mountain? Yeah, go for it. Like, we'll let you fall and we'll let you get hurt, or you can try to parachute your way out if you have enough stamina or whatever. But I love that like there's no limit. Like and people it is a little disappointing that there are no dungeons in the game.
Yeah, there
Classic.
aren't.
Which
Definitively, we can say at
there
this
are
point
there are the
none.
four there's four the four divine beasts are technically like mini dungeons, I guess.
Yeah, they're probably double the size of some of the bigger shrines.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times, and there's some good puzzles in them. Like the
Oh my
divine
god!
beasts have some
a
good
couple
stuff
of them
in
melted
there.
my brain, man. Oh my
They're
god!
cool. Like I would love this, and they're very dramatic and very interesting, and they're cool addition. They're very Studio Ghibli. I thought like there's a lot of Studio Ghibli in this game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which is a very positive thing.
Yeah.
That kind of ancient tech thing with the Magitech idea.
And the art style as well.
Art style is great.
Yeah.
The art style is also great because it really manages to cover over the technical shortcomings, which are legion.
Yeah.
I mean, this game runs like garbage sometimes.
I
and
think that
it's
was
really
the thing I was most
disturbing.
disappointed with in this game, and not necessarily just because it's Zelda, but because this game is kind of the harbinger of what we're going to see going forward with Switch. And look, I'm not going to say they're not going to get better at developing for the hardware, even though it is using a chip that developers have been working with for years now. And I'm sure NVIDIA has the libraries for that chip down pat. I'm also about 95% sure that NVIDIA worked with Nintendo on porting Zelda from the Wii U over to this to make sure they got it done quickly and on time for launch. So to me, that was one of the more discouraging things about playing this game, is realizing where the Switch is going to hit its sort of technical hilt, so to speak, and it's not good enough for a video game console in 2017.
I mean, I'm not quite ready to condemn it in that sense until I see Mario, mainly because, like, word is that this game started getting ported to the Switch 12 months ago.
A year ago, yeah.
Which is, like, not a lot of time. The main issue is, like, a game from your last system should not struggle this much on your new system.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there's places like the ground clutter and, like, the high-res versions of, you can see it even right there. Like, there's stuff that fades in on the ground like 5 feet from Link's foot.
Yeah,
It's
concerning to me, the technical prowess of the Switch
yeah.
based upon this game.
And it, like, I don't know if I've ever played a game that is this beautiful and this ugly by turns.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you get up on this, like, a vista, and it's like, wow, you can see forever. You can see all the great Hyrule landmarks everywhere. You can recognize where everything is and where you've been. And wow, I was just at that thing, and it's so far away now. And like the scope of this game is incredible. And then you look down, and you're standing on a rock that has a texture that would be out of place on the PS2.
Yeah.
It's just it's a jarring kind of. You can constantly see that. I guess for me, it's
I
like,
think it's
I
mostly
constantly am
beautiful.
reminded that I just paid $300 for a very underpowered system.
Yeah.
And more it feels like maybe this.
But
system,
a ultra-powered handheld.
Oh yeah, well that's what I was going to say. More and more it feels like this system was maybe supposed to be the next handheld, and they just sort of added on
And
the
it should
console,
be.
added on the console functionality because
Yeah.
the Wii U was flagging.
Yeah.
And because it just doesn't. It doesn't.
I don't think
handle
that's
it.
true, by the way. I think that hypothesis makes sense, but I don't think that's true. Like, I
Maybe
don't.
not. We'll never know if
Yeah.
it is because they never admit it.
Right.
But like, it feels like the console functionality is an afterthought. at
It
the very
does, yeah.
I mean, people are right. It looks great in handheld mode. The screen's
And it
super
runs
sharp.
great.
It runs great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
In fact, I toyed with trying to find a way to make it run at 720p on the TV, but I couldn't make it do it. That
I
seems
mean,
to be a
the
function
fact of the
dock.
matter is the system is a 720p system.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They're trying to stretch the power of the system to run on 1080p TVs, and it just doesn't have it.
And we'll also see what like future games look like in that sense, because look, this game is doing one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah,
I mean, like, just giant open environments where you can see for frickin' ever
with no loading.
And I keep running into one other thing, because you can do the scope where like you zoom in and kind of scope
if you
things
click
out.
the right stick.
It's doing the thing that made me stop playing Donkey Kong 64, which is it doesn't fade in enemies or objects or details even when I zoom in. Like, so I'll look across like the river or something to see if there's anything in this camp, and there's nothing there. And as soon as I'm halfway across the river, 5 moblins spawn in, like sleeping on the ground or something. And I'm just like,
sometimes they just come up from the ground.
That too. It's just so it's just little things like that where the little things where things don't mesh together. The fact that like I feel like the rain is almost bugged, because like it says it'll be harder to climb things when it's raining, but it's impossible to climb things.
Yeah, you can't climb at all.
So
I didn't even see where it said it was harder.
It mentions it
at
some point. It's definitely one of the pop-up
I was never able to
messages.
climb anything when it's raining, so I just assumed it would just.
It's when the first time I think you try to climb when it's raining, it says like, oh, you might slide down more often, when it's raining. So be careful. Choose your moments. But there's been moments where I'm like, okay, I have to like climb up this thing to do the thing I'm doing, and I don't want to go anywhere else because there's no shrines near here, because I'm climbing up to get to the shrine that will be my fast travel point.
Right.
So I basically have to stand here and wait for time to pass so the rain goes away, and it's like
I feel like there's a lot of quirks like that.
Yeah.
Like you had mentioned in your text message about the cooking pots and how when it rains, it puts out the fire of the cooking pot. And so you can't cook while it's raining.
Right.
So you have to either like fast travel to some other town where hopefully it's not raining, or you have to sit there and wait for it to stop raining. And then I noticed too, if you do sit there and wait for it to stop raining, when it stops, the pot will not reignite until you walk away from it.
Right.
And then you walk back and the fire's going underneath it again, and you can cook again. But
you can also just you can drop a flint and hit it with a metal weapon,
Right.
and it'll ignite, but it's like...
And that's the stuff that I love about this game, is that nothing in this game is predetermined or canned. Like, everything in the game has a property to it, and everything else in the game interacts with the property of that object with their own properties in a realistic manner. So you can find all kinds of crazy ways to do stuff in this game. Like I saw yesterday, people are starting to fast travel using boulders. So you have the one ability where you can like freeze the boulder and then you like whack it with your weapon and it builds up like all this momentum in the boulder. Well, you could jump on that boulder, and when it takes off, you fly with the boulder. And like, there's all kinds of stuff like that in this game where it's just like, okay.
I'm continually amazed at what I can ride.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can ride like you can ride moose. You can ride. I rode like a mini boss.
Yep.
Literally, like on accident. Like I was fighting him and I accidentally hit like the mount button and Link just jumps on him. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't know if I want to do this. And like, that is what makes this game so fun. And it's what keeps me, in honesty, it's what kept me playing. Because it's like I said in last week's show, I felt like the only motivation you have to keep doing this stuff, or most of the motivation, is just to make the boss fight at the end easier. Because that's really what the whole goal of the game is. There's really no story to it. It's like once you get the setup...
the story was 100 years ago.
Right, it was 100 years ago, and once you get the setup at the beginning of the game, nothing else happens.
Not really.
Nothing.
Well, there's a
like
lot
you meet people.
You meet people. I think some of it's fun. Like some of the character stuff is fun. I love the overly heroic prince of the fish people.
Yeah.
There's also there's a weird twist in the fish people story. I can't remember what their name. What was it? Are they Ruto? Azora?
Yeah.
Yeah. They there's a weird twist there in what Link's past relationships were about.
Oh yeah. Like it's a girl that was like a hot form or whatever. Is that what you're talking about?
It's a fish. Like Link was dating a fish. Like,
well, I think it was unrequited love on the part of the Zora.
I mean, look, there's a history. You go back to Ocarina of Time, like the princess is hitting on Link back then. It's like apparently there's a it's like they say, the repetition cycles. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Thanks, George Lucas. Apparently Link's a sushi fan. Is what I'm saying here.
Oh man, you went there.
But, Nintendo, and I know you
people are saying we're sharing spoilers. Are we sharing spoilers? Stop being so damn sensitive. We're not going to spoil it. Why are Nintendo fans like this? They can't hear anything about the freaking game.
Nintendo fans, it's everybody.
It's not everybody.
You've never tried to talk movies on a forum.
Here's the thing. There are no story spoilers in this game. There's nothing that ever happens that's a twist or a turn or something unexpected happens. The premise is all there is. That's it. I've finished the game. There's no story spoilers. Nothing I can tell them about the story that they're like, oh my god, there's nothing.
There's I guess they flesh out what happened 100 years ago, but what happened 100 years ago.
They tell you what happened 100 years ago.
It's really just about finding details out, I guess.
And those details in those cinemas are, I don't even want to watch them.
Well, that's the funny thing is this. I had no idea. I guess that so much of it was backstory.
That's all it is.
Nothing happens in this game.
The present. That's what I'm saying. Nothing. There are no spoilers. It's they tell you at the beginning, and everybody knows this. If you watch any trailers or read any previews, you got to fight Ganon.
Right.
Calamity Ganon has taken over Hyrule, and you needed to get him.
I'm glad Yahtzee made the Calamity Jane joke because it's all that's been in my head. This is the first time they call him. I don't know where Calamity Ganon's coming from.
He's taken over Hyrule.
Sounds like a Godzilla villain.
And you need to get him the hell out. And that's it. And that's all there is to the story in this game. That nothing ever changes about that. Nothing ever deviates. That is your course of action the whole time. That is your motivation the whole time.
What I would consider the only spoilers I think that what I would consider in this game are the things you find in the game.
Yeah,
not the story, but it's if I told you that out in this place you'll find this thing. I would have probably preferred to just stumble across that,
Yeah.
But
there aren't even really things like that, though.
Oh, here and there. There's been some fun surprises.
Because it's the Master Sword. They've shown it in all the trailers.
Oh yeah.
And there's going to be the Master Sword in a Zelda game.
Right. But and all the classic Zelda accoutrements are out there. Except I don't know.
No, there's some that are not.
There's no tunic. I guess.
There is actually.
There is?
Yeah.
Well, most of you can get almost every classic Zelda outfit piece from Amiibos if you're up for that.
Yeah.
And if you have any Zelda Amiibos, you should go to eBay right now and sell them because damn. If the old Zelda Amiibos from the Smash Brothers section, you're looking at $50-$60 for a loose one at this point.
It's crazy.
People are rabid for these Amiibos.
Because it's one of the cases where the Amiibo actually do something relevant and worthwhile. And I mentioned in my game.
The only way to get Epona is to scan the Smash Brothers link.
Right.
So.
Right. And so I mentioned in my game eval in the connectivity section, it didn't get a 0, it actually got a 2. And I think someone in the comments was like, oh, I think that's generous to give it a 2, but I don't think it is, because the Amiibo stuff in this game is actually worthwhile and cool.
Yeah, if you have Zelda Amiibos, it's worth doing it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a case of crying wolf, haha, because there's been all this Amiibo that come out, and they don't do anything that you actually give a crap about. So I think people have kind of tuned it out and been like, oh, Amiibo, that's not worth much. It is worth something in this game.
It will be, yeah. I have to admit that in the wake of this game, I did actually go and buy Zero Suit Samus, the Amiibo for her, because I already had Samus in the armor. But I went and bought Zero Suit because I'm like, you know what? If they ever actually do make another Metroid game, these things are going to do something.
They are. They're going to do something cool.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully, as long as Nintendo stays on this trajectory.
I think if you like those little extra thingies, that kind of bonus nostalgia, that seems to be where they're putting sort of the nostalgia bones they're throwing people, is in the Amiibo unlocks. I bet Mario Kart's going to have that too.
Yeah.
I think they were detailing some of that in a video that came out this week. But if you like a series, keep up with the Amiibos, I would say. I'm doing the same thing with Fire Emblem. I'm keeping up with the Fire Emblem stuff, partly because I think they're the coolest Amiibos, but because I think those character designs translate very well.
Yeah.
But when Fire Emblem comes out, is it May it comes out? I bet Amiibos are going to do something pretty cool in that. Just
probably.
I feel like having the Zelda Amiibos finally paid off in this game. It was good. It was good times.
So now that you've played dozens of hours of it.
Oh, and by the way, I'm playing mostly with my Pro controller here. I did bring this in just to give an example. This is so much better than the Joy-Cons. I cannot tell you.
It really is, yeah.
In part, just look at the size, and I'm sure it's too far away here, but look at the size of the control stick there. This is a real controller. This is just repurposed Wii U gamepad buttons and stuff. It's really good. And I know it's sold out.
It sucks
right
that
now.
you have to go and like spend an extra 60.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I got this on
control
Amazon.
options.
Amazon, now it's like $100 for.
I mean,
'cause they're
also
scalping
the
it,
Wii U Pro controller should work with this thing. Like,
probably should. Well, the thing that shocked me was the fact that Blaster Master came out this week, and they're patching Pro controller support in on the 16th. Why is this not default with the system support? Why is that not at a firmware level? That's weird.
That is pretty weird. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad they're putting it in, but it's like, how is there's nothing different functionality wise between these two things. Why is it different?
Yeah.
Very weird.
So I've spent 60 hours with this game. You're 30 plus.
Somewhere, yeah, easily.
So have you figured out where these scores are coming from? Why it's getting the scores it has? Because I still haven't, honestly.
I mean, it's the best Zelda game since probably 1998.
Yeah.
It's unless you're a Majora's Mask fan, which only adds 1 year to that.
Right.
It's something new for Nintendo. I mean, that's one of the most amazing things. I remember you said a few weeks ago, like, it's full of new ideas if you've only played Nintendo games for the last 20 years. Apparently, there's a lot of people that did only play it because.
But these people haven't. These are critics who have been reviewing games on every platform for years, and
like I said, the Zelda bump, man. I would never give this thing a 10 out. I would give it a 5 out of 5 on the XPlay scale because it's 5 ratings and they're all kind of more like. Recommendation levels.
5 is like a must-buy, basically.
Yeah, 5 is like, you have to play this.
That was the easiest review scale I ever worked on.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, I could play a game for like an hour and know what the score was.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That was the point.
Yeah.
It was television. You had to get it done, man.
It was so easy. I mean, we'd play the games all the way to the end like we did anywhere else, but like you could play it for an hour, you could be like, this is a 3.
Yeah.
Very rarely, by the time you got to the end of the game, did that initial impression change.
Very rarely did a 3 ever turn it around to a 4 or crash to a 2 after like the midway point.
Right.
But if you're rating this thing on like a 100-point scale, which are most of the 10 out of 10s are, no way.
Yeah.
Like it runs too poorly in places. It impacts gameplay too much. There's too many weird little quirks in how things work. There's places where things seem to be designed to be frustrating rather than fun, which is not the Nintendo way usually. And it's great.
We can go on and on. We've shared tons of criticism about the game. We don't need to rehash all of that.
No, but it's great.
There's lots of shortcomings of this game. To me, I guess when I think of a game that would get a 10 out of 10, and again, I've never given one in my life, but if it were, it would have to have some sort of innovation in it. And I think that's my sticking point, is I just don't see any here. Nintendo's done a commendable job of catching up with everybody else very quickly.
And they've taken tons of ideas from other games and got concepts from other games, refined them, put them together in a way that makes sense, in a way that feels like Zelda. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it still feels like a Zelda game.
And as much as
actually, kind of.
It does.
Like, I wonder if art, if it was just swapped out for something else, if it would feel like a Zelda game.
Well, the combat still feels like Zelda, and I don't mean that necessarily as a compliment in every possible way.
Combat's pretty simple.
Because let me tell you, like, I missed the combat in Horizon Zero Dawn when I first switched to this, because there's moments where I'm just like, if this was Horizon Zero Dawn, you'd all be dead 3 times by now.
Yeah.
Whereas meanwhile, I'm just like, I just need you to lock on. I just need you
the
to lock on to the guy.
pretty finicky.
The lock on is weird. It seems to adjust based on what kind of enemy you're fighting. So like, like you can lock onto one of those spider guardians for like a mile out, but you have to like lock onto the lizard guys or whatever. Like they have to be much closer. It's the sniping's pretty good, but like overall,
there's other issues if you're like, I played with 2 separated Joy-Cons, and so you end up using the motion controls a lot more for like aiming the bow and things like that. And when you start using that, you start running into some other issues as well.
Right. But like I'd probably give it like a 9.8.
Oh wow!
Or 9.7. I mean,
I wouldn't go that high.
It's holding it back like very, very.
To me,
little.
the lack of a story is a huge deal for me.
I don't really mind the lack. I mean, the lack of a story is sort of expected for me, because it's not like I necessarily cared about the story in the other Zelda games either.
But there were moments.
Also, like,
there's
moments, but look,
I don't remember. There's nothing memorable that happens in this game story-wise. Like, even going back to Ocarina of Time, when they had these rudimentary storytelling mechanics that they had to use, it was like the dawn of the real-time cinema. There were moments in that game that still stick with me. Like, the moment when Link comes back to the village and the whole village is on fire.
Yeah.
Like, the moment on the break. Like, there's just things that happen in that game that are touching and memorable, and there's none of that in this game. And, like, the vehicle is great. Like, they've got to real-time cinemas that look amazing. All the gear that Link wears shows up in the cinemas, so your customized character, you feel an attachment to the character in the cinemas.
I kind of wish they'd given Link more personality in this. It feels...
He still never talks, which I don't complain about. That's fine.
Clearly he talks to people.
Yeah, because they'll show him from the back.
He'll back and he'll move his arms and they'll be like, oh, really? And I was like, just let him talk. You've already taken away my ability to rename him. Like,
but
why
if
not
you remember in Skyward Sword, they actually showed his face while he was talking, and he just had the flappy jaw with nothing coming out of it. So I actually like this approach better than what they did in Skyward Sword.
It's definitely better, but it's like, it's really starting to wear thin. And it's like, at this point, I feel like you're hurting the storytelling by refusing to let Link be a character. Everybody else is a very defined, I can tell you exactly who Zelda is as a character in this game.
Yeah.
And she's potentially interesting, but she never has anyone to play off of.
I don't think she's interesting at all.
But she could be if she was allowed to have an actual scene with Link, as opposed to just talking at him.
Well, there are scenes. If you go and do the memories...
but he never speaks to her. There's no scene. There's no two characters interacting. She's monologuing at a mannequin. And it's like, pick one. Like, one or the other. You can't have this dramatic scene, because...
This is a compromise. I think if they had gone all in and had Link talk, the fans would have revolted.
I think this game was good enough that people would accept it.
I think this was a smart way to do it.
If you're going to keep something from the old Zelda format, how about keeping the dungeons?
Yeah. And see, that's my biggest complaint, is that there aren't any dungeons in this game. So that's why, comparing it to like Ocarina of Time, or actually even like Wind Waker, it's hard for me to say that this game is better than those games, because it loses that, to me, that epic nature. I feel like this game was made for the ADD millennial generation, whose attention spans aren't especially long, and they feel like they need that constant gratification over and over of completing something every 5 minutes. And I get it. You have to design your games for your audience. And the truth is, most of the people buying games these days are younger people, millennials still. There are people like us who grew up, who started playing games when they were their age, and now we're older and we're still playing. But to make money, you need to target your games towards those people. That doesn't make me happy personally. And when I evaluate a game or provide commentary on a game, I'm not trying to figure out what somebody else thinks. I'm sharing what I think about it. And hopefully people know me well enough, they know my background and the kind of games that I like and my perspective on things, so that they can take my opinion with that particular grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, maybe, I would revise my 9.7 down a bit in light of what you're saying there, because frankly, I just didn't even think about story with this game, because I don't expect a story from a Zelda game beyond go kill Ganon, Zelda's upset,
but see,
Gorons roll rocks, Zora's dive in water. It's like, I don't...
Right. They're playing with the big boys now, though, and it's good. They finally got up to speed with everybody else, which also means that you're now compared... It's not apples to oranges anymore. It's apples to apples. You're looking at Zelda versus Skyrim, or Zelda versus The Witcher, or Zelda versus Horizon Zero Dawn, and I don't think it's as good as, and definitely not better than, any of those games. So,
story-wise, no, not at all.
I don't know. And look, none of those games got perfect 10s.
The main story in main story in Skyrim wasn't amazing, but there's side quests in Skyrim that have a better story than the main story in this game. Yeah,
and the side quests in this game don't stray too far from, hey, go over here and get something and bring it back, or take this to somebody, or go here and take a photograph.
Yeah, there's enough variety though that even though most of the quests...
Which are my favorite side quests, by the way, where they're like, hey, I want you to get a photo of this creature. And you have to go hunt for this creature and try to snap a photo without dying to the creature.
And I'm not entirely sure how to explain why, when they made me do that in Final Fantasy 15, I just wanted to flip them off.
Yeah.
And in this one, I'm just like, cool, I'll go find it right now. Probably because it's more fun to traverse the world in this game.
It is, and I think the world's way more interesting in this.
For sure.
I mean, Final Fantasy 15 I felt like this thing that was hacked together.
But also, it's a minor thing, but it counts. That when you find the thing you're looking for in Zelda, it's literally the thing you're looking for laying on the ground and not a little glowing white spot.
Yeah. Look, this whole world is coherent. Everything fits together perfectly, and it all makes sense. And
you recognize everything. If you're a Zelda fan, if you've played a lot of the games, you can stand on a mountain peak and see all. At the beginning of the game, you stand way up high. You can see all the landmarks from higher. It's all right there, laid out in front of you. You can go to all of it. It's that's what and again, I'm an open world kind of, wander around, find stuff person.
Yeah.
So my favorite stuff in this game has been standing on, okay, I got to the top of this mountain. I'm going to go look and see what looks interesting. Maybe it's a tower I haven't completed or whatever, and I'm going to mark it with the scope, and I'm going to go get there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see how I get there. And sometimes it's taken a day to get there, a full real-time day. Again, I played for a whole day and got distracted by so many things I ran into on the way that I didn't even get there till the next real-time day.
The game gets better as it goes on with that. At first, like, it was driving me crazy. Like, when they first mark the 4 spots on your map, and hardly any of the map is exposed, and you just have to go out into the wilderness and find these places. Like, it literally drove me crazy, because I would get sent, I'd go the wrong way, I'd end up walking for like 3 days and end up at a dead end and have to like either turn around and walk all the way back or warp to one of the couple shrines I had completed and start all over again. As you get through the game and you start getting those shrines set up and those towers set up and it's easier to kind of warp around, it dissipates. But I would contend this game starts really slowly.
It does.
And doesn't really get compelling and good until like the 15 to the 20-hour mark. And by then you've kind of filled in a lot of the wilderness with the towers and the shrines, and it's not a pain in the ass to try to get somewhere and figure out where you're trying to go.
Like, I don't think it takes that long, but I definitely had, I think I texted you about it, like early on, like when you start on the Great Plateau, and like the whole point of the first few, kind of the tutorial section is doing that and earning the paraglider so you can get off it and see the rest of the world. And there was a point at which I think I texted you, I was like, I'm having a big, like, so this is the whole game moment right now. And luckily it's not, you know, you unlock some new abilities and some other things. There's more to it. But early on when they just throw all those rune abilities at you and they're like, here's how you solve stuff, go. I'm like, wait, so that's it? Like, I have my...
Well, that really was it, though.
It was, but like, you get, you get
some stuff from the 4 races.
4 races, like, there's some traversal abilities you get. There's some enhancements you find. There's some cool stuff to uncover that, you know, you're not done with, you don't leave that plateau with all the ways you're ever going to have to traverse the terrain of the world. Yeah. And that's cool. But
I miss that constant progression from Zelda, though.
Oh, for
where
sure.
you're always getting...
Look, man,
there's no build in this game. It's like they give you everything right at the beginning, and there's no sense of progression in it. I never felt like I was becoming more powerful or better or more skilled with the stuff that I had.
I feel like that a little bit with the outfits, because the outfits, you have a sense of ownership over them, and you upgrade them with the great fairies, who are just as terrifying as they've always been. Every time they come up with a new way to make those characters like just scary as hell. And this,
I don't trust them.
No.
It's like, you're not
Neither
my friend.
does Link. Like,
even though you give me armor, I don't trust you.
Every game, Link always kind of has that reaction of like, and this one too. So I'm not going to say anything about what they are or what they do, but they're a shocker. And it's like, I feel like that feels good that I can I have these different outfits for different things, and that's cool. But like, you never get that ownership over the weapons or anything because they keep breaking. Most of my ownership is over my inventory size. And that's another thing that I do like is like, you have to gather Korok seeds to turn into this guy in the Lost Woods to expand your inventory of your shields and your bows and your weapons. Because inventory management is the game.
It is
in a lot of ways.
It,
And the Koroks are like little, lift a rock up, and it gives you a seed. There's a circle of things. Put a rock and complete the circle. You get another Korok pops up. So basically, there's like little tiny mini puzzles scattered all through the world. There's like 900 of them, I think, to do.
Are there really 900?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
To fully upgrade your inventory, it only takes like 400 something. So basically, there's twice as many as you need, I think, is what I read from the strategy guide thing. So basically, you don't need to use a strategy guide. I like that, because you don't need to use a strategy guide, because you're probably going to stumble over half of them anyway. But
completing this game without a strategy guide was definitely a test of will for me.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, I've looked up a couple of things for sure.
There was a couple of moments where I literally was just about to pull my freaking hair out. I was just like, I have no clue, and I felt bad until I went and checked out like the reviewers thread on Facebook and realized that there was just hundreds and hundreds of questions from people like, what the hell?
But I'll tell you, like, if this game had 7 to 9 solid Ocarina Twilight Princess level dungeons in it, it would be in my top 5 of all time.
I don't even think it would need 7. Like, if this game really had the 4 legit dungeons like Game Informer kind of insinuated to people it had.
Didn't they say 8? I thought they said 8.
No, I think they said 4. Because they were talking about what I don't want to spoil. Right. And they were wrong. There's no dungeons in this. Like, even if there were like 4, even if there were as many dungeons as Wind Waker, like, I could probably see the perfect scores.
In addition to what's already there.
Right.
Yeah.
And if there was a story worth talking
Yeah.
about or experiencing. Like, I could see the scores that it's getting from a lot of the press. But it doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't have those
I
things.
just feel like they made a great open world take on Zelda, which the series has flirted with for 20 years now.
Yeah.
They made a great open world take on Zelda that feels like Zelda. It feels the way Zelda open world should feel.
Yep.
Even to the point that I don't even mind the breaking weapons that much, and I hate weapon degradation.
Yeah.
I feel like they balanced it properly to the point that you
or there's a weapon every 10 feet laying around. It's like,
and
it
you
broke,
just
you
sort
just
of
pick up another one.
And there are very few weapons you'll only find once. And
I don't know of any.
There's
there's one,
There's at least
obviously.
one, yeah. But like, it's just if there'd been, if you made that overworld, you made that open world, but it's like you made Arkham City with no supervillains.
Yeah.
There's no oomph moments to it.
I really miss the progression of the old Zelda games.
sure.
Where
And maybe,
it builds on your skills as you go, and so you get the first dungeon, you get one weapon. Then the next dungeon, you get another one, but you're using both of those to get through it. And then the third dungeon, you're using three of the items to get through it.
I think it would be
and
totally
by the
fair.
end, the last dungeon, you're using your whole repertoire to get through it.
Right.
Like,
Well, I think it'd be totally fair to, like you have the rune things in this game, where you use those constantly through. I think it'd be totally fair to have a set of items that are only used in dungeons.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, Link Between Worlds kind of did that with the rental system. There are all the things you needed for the dungeons like that. Somebody on the forums had a real... Oh, good, they're in here, because I couldn't remember the name. SJD Swanland is in the chat right now. He had a... Go look, if you haven't, at his post in the Game Eval comments. He had a pretty big post about how he would approach a kind of a revamp of how the game approaches a lot of these things, and I thought it was really interesting. And certainly, now I can't remember it too well because I read a bunch of... I was really cramming to get all the stuff done I needed to watch before I came over here because it's been a busy day. But he had a really good post. I think it's a he or she had a really good post about it.
Everyone, check it out.
I can't remember. Tell me in the chat what you were talking about in that, because it was about kind of like progression of things and I think the dungeon ideas and kind of how that could work. And I can't remember the details, but it was really good. I hope, and I kind of like wonder, like, here's my question to you after all of this stuff: where does Zelda go now? Now what?
I mean,
you can't just keep making Hyrule over and over.
Well, here's
again,
the problem: is that it's not just Zelda's problem. It's the whole genre's problem, because this genre quickly is becoming rote. There's not a lot of innovation happening in the open world action RPG genre right now. I mean, you can see it, like even with a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, great game, but does it really do anything that prior games hadn't? Kind of once hunting and gathering and resource and crafting and all that stuff kind of came into the genre, it's kind of plateaued. And in all honesty, typically you would look to Nintendo to be the developer that takes something that's existed and turned it into something new. And, with this first stab at this genre, I don't begrudge it, because it's like, that's a lot. To go from what Zelda used to be to what Breath of the Wild is, that's commendable.
Oh, yeah.
But the next one, that's maybe where we see Nintendo finally turn this genre into something different and something unique, and make it something that, in a lot of ways, in all honesty, only Nintendo can do. Yeah. So,
like, I'm hoping we get some kind of an asset reuse, reskin, Majora's Mask style thing, maybe 3 years down the line. Also, just to give Switch another Zelda game.
I mean, the other conundrum here is, like, it took so long to make this game.
Yeah, but it's like, you got to it's just like Ocarina. It took forever to make Ocarina too, and they reused all those assets for Majora's Mask. And that, I'm not a Majora's Mask fan because I hate timers, but like, a lot of people consider that their favorite Zelda game. Like, just because you're reusing stuff and recycling some of that doesn't mean they're not going to come up with a great idea.
Well, here's the other
thing. I feel like
there's
plenty of ideas on the table for this game.
This game took, what, 7 years? Is that right?
Yeah. 6.
When did Skyward Sword come out?
2011, I want to say Skyward Sword was.
6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, in 6 years, the Switch isn't going to be around.
No,
hopefully, if Nintendo continues making consoles, its next console is far more powerful than this. So,
but if
it's going to have to get over that technical hurdle again.
But if you just reskin this and do it again with a different setup, you can do it in like 3 years.
Right. Like, I think
that'll coincide nicely with the new Switch. that is inevitably going
Well,
to
look,
be released.
here's not what really has me confounded is Nintendo's already talked about its season pass and DLC plan. It said a new dungeon is coming. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. That was what SJD Swellman, that's what he was talking about. He was talking about dungeons in this game being adapted to the crafting and survival mechanics, and that like making going into a dungeon a big deal in the sense that once you go in, you have what you have with you, and you have to kind of scratch and scrounge to figure your way through there, not just in the sense of solving all the puzzles, but surviving the ordeal.
Yeah.
And that would have been just an excellent adaptation of how dungeons work in Zelda into this new format, and it's a shame that maybe 6 years wasn't enough for that.
Yeah.
But if they did like a reskin that took that kind of idea for the dungeons and made that sort of the focus of the next, the reskin game, the Majora's Mask equivalent of Breath of the Wild, man, that would be fantastic.
I'll tell you what would be fantastic.
On board
if
for that.
The DLC for this game actually is a freaking dungeon.
Yeah, it raises a big question.
If it was a legitimate Zelda, dude, all Nintendo would have to do is just keep putting out dungeons. Give us 2 dungeons a year. I would keep playing this game forever. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, just do it. Problem solved.
Give me a Dark World.
Yeah, whatever.
Just flip it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that they can work this. The foundation is obviously there. They've worked through a lot of the issues of how do you create an open world with no loading times. It just streams in. Like, all those technical hurdles, they're over them now.
Oh, and can I say how much I love the fact that when you go to a building, you just open a door and walk in and there's no loads?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Nothing loads at all in this game.
No.
Once you're in, you're in. And so they figured out a lot of the issues that developers have wrangled with, most of them wrangled with 8 years ago. But Nintendo's finally kind of got over that hump and figured out a lot of this stuff. I feel like now it's just more of a matter, I don't know if it's like a cut and paste like you were saying, but it's just more of a matter of, okay, let's get our creatives in here and just figure out what we're going to make and not have to worry about the nuts and bolts of actually creating it anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It should go more quickly.
I'm not saying a cut and paste. I'm saying like Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask reuses everything they did in Ocarina to kind of do a little. It's almost like a fan mod.
Yeah.
When you think about it, it's like a total conversion to another game, and I think you can definitely do that with Breath of the Wild. I think there's no reason to start over from scratch right now. Like they can build a new game using what the groundwork they've already laid and make something really amazing.
Like there's no reason a sequel to this game can't come out in 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No reason.
I hope they're on board with that because you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Because again, there's more to do with what they've done here. Like,
for sure.
Like they put it all out there, but you play this game and you're already thinking of ways you could expand it and do this and do more and
that's I think a good analogy for this game is that I feel like it's the blank canvas. Like I feel like Nintendo built the easel, stretched the canvas over the frame, and put it there, and that's Breath of the Wild. And now that they kind of have that there, they can get out their paintbrushes and really start getting creative with it. So to me, that's not a game that's a 10 out of 10. I'm never going to say someone's opinion is wrong. Just as I would hope no one would say my opinion's wrong. But just the way I look at games, it would be hard for me to give this game kind of a score.
The phenomenon is unusual and like the Korok thing. There was an article that Kotaku put up. It was about how Zelda does collectibles right or whatever. And one of the things in it was like I saw this little mountain thing, and I decided I'm just going to climb it because climbing is climbing. And I climbed the thing, and at the top of the mountain there's a rock, and I picked it up, and there's a Korok under there. That's amazing. Who would ever have thought to put that there? How many people are even going to see that? I'm like, everybody, because the whole game is climbing shit to find shit. Like that's how is that amazing? Like, Nintendo invented putting things on top of things. Like what is that?
Dude,
what is going on?
It has been crazy. So I curate, so I see everything every website publishes, and since this game got the scores that it's got, these publications are trying to milk it for everything. Some of the articles that these publications are posting are embarrassing. Like, I mean, flat out just clickbait. Make sure you got Zelda Breath of the Wild in the title because everyone's Googling it right now. It's been pretty shameful.
That's the other thing that I was amazed by. And I haven't, I Google, if I'm stuck on something, I'll Google it pretty quick. I don't got patience for getting through. And so there've been a couple shrines where I'm like, okay, I don't know how to get the bonus chest or whatever. I'm just going to look. You put 3 letters of that shrine's name. I mean, it helps that the shrines all have names.
Weird names. Yeah.
You put 3 letters in, and the first Google autocomplete will be that shrine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Like, people, I mean, you saw that article about how porn sites are reporting that their traffic is down since the Switch came out.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how a big game like Zelda, I mean, really...
I think the other thing, too, is that...
It takes a Zelda or a GTA or that kind of thing. It just focuses the entire hobby on this one thing, and the laser focus of it changes search engine results. That's amazing.
It is. The other thing, too, that I would say is it's been interesting to watch how the websites have been trying to find new angles on Zelda. And so I don't want to completely berate them because they've actually, a couple of the articles they've written, I've been like, wow, I never really thought about that. So it's kind of like a journalistic exercise where you're throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall and eventually some of it sticks. So I don't want to say it's all been bad. Like, there have been some pretty cool articles that I've read that people have written. And then to your point about Googling for help, I think that's another thing that people don't take into account when they say they're reading my game eval. Is a lot of people say, oh, I didn't cheat. They're probably lying. Like, most people, when a game's out, there's already strategy guides everywhere, and most people aren't going to sit there for 45 minutes stuck on some stupid thing when they know they can Google it, and in 3 seconds they have the answer to it. Well,
that's why that Facebook group exists, so we can ask each other, because someone out there figured that out.
Yeah.
Garnet Lee probably figured that out in 5 seconds.
But it's a lot of that Zelda stuff, people didn't. And they were just like, I just left it and gave up. Like, that was the way it was. And so people need to keep in mind, when I played this game, I was playing it on my own.
Early on, I did that.
There was no help. There was nobody and, like, you know, most of the questions on that Facebook chat just went unanswered. People are like, I got stuck there too and couldn't figure it out.
Early on, I couldn't get one particular thing. And so I just said, oh, forget it. It can't be that important. Because
it's easy to say everything's awesome whenever the answer is like 2 seconds away.
You open chests all the time in this game, and they always contain nothing of interest or value. It's like one opal, which you can get 5 of those out of. You know. So I'm like, okay, just another chest, whatever. And finally, I ended up going back and finding it again last night. So this is like 30 hours later. Yeah. And I'm like, I think I know how to get that now, because there was another puzzle and another shrine. And I'm like, oh, I bet that's what that was. I went back and got the thing that was in the chest, and the thing that was in the chest, if I'd had that the last 30 hours, everything would have been so much better. Like, the one thing I left behind was the one thing I really, really wanted, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So,
but I think people, it's like...
You're right. Like, having to leave things like that because there's no resources available I think, is definitely detrimental to the enjoyment.
It's easy to sit there and say the game is awesome whenever you don't get stuck. Because when you get stuck, like, it's just human nature for your brain to start thinking about why. Why is this happening? Why can I not figure this out? Are there not enough clues here? And it sours you on the experience. You're like, this isn't right. Like, there should be enough clues here for me to be able to get through this. I don't need to figure it out right away. Like, I like some challenge, but there were times in this game where I was just like, what the fuck?
Well,
like,
sometimes I ran into that just because it throws all your rune abilities at you at the very beginning of the game. It never gives you a chance to sort of like ease, like the other Zeldas, each dungeon gives you a new, basically major traversal or, like terrain altering ability, whatever.
Yeah.
And so but in this game, it throws them all at you at once. So like there are early shrines where I'm just like, couldn't figure something out. It was because I forgot that I had these other abilities and what they could do. Like, they do a pretty good job of teaching you what each thing can do, but you get so used to sort of
doing the same thing with
each one that sometimes all of a sudden they start throwing like some outside the box stuff at you, and I just couldn't get it. I was like, I'm like, oh, because like that was why I went back to that other shrine, because I left it. I wrote down which one it was, and at some point I did another puzzle where I'm like, oh, because that, and it was just an advanced gameplay mechanic that my mind was not ready for, and that later on it had become so commonplace that I'm like, oh, that's what that was trying to teach me. And I went back. So on one hand, I mean, some people could see it as a positive because it's like continually opening up to you. But I find it like a little overwhelming that like it just throws all these things suddenly at you, and you're like, okay, so I have to remember that this can do this, but that can do that, but that can do this if you combine it with that, and like then you can use this with that, and use that with like. And now, like 30 hours in, it's just like, oh yeah, sure, you want ball, But all that, of course, also does not mitigate the 3 or 4 shrines I've done that are literally motion-controlled ball maze puzzles, which worst. You better hope I never find you, whoever put those in the game. Holy, like everything, like rolling giant balls through mazes and flipping them up. I mean, it's just why? And also like because of how some of them, you have to turn this thing around and flip it upside down, and I'm just like, this is
there were
stupid.
some times where I was shooting like arrows on horseback, and I literally was like this with the Joy-Con, like this, trying to get because it calibrates weird sometimes. And like when he's riding on horseback, if there's enemies that are moving the other direction, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, and like using the stick to turn his aim doesn't work fast enough, so you're like literally like sticking it under your armpit. It's crazy. But we should move on. We've now talked about Zelda again for 40 minutes. I don't know if we've ever dedicated this much time to any game on GameFace when we add it all up in aggregate.
Well,
so,
it's a big deal. It's absolutely a Game of the Year candidate. It's,
for sure.
It's it's the best thing Nintendo's made for frickin' ever. Like as far as I'm concerned,
while, yeah.
like it's just it feels like with as many like technical problems as it has, it feels like a return to form.
Yeah.
In a very real way. And on one hand, I look at all the kind of the hyperbolic, articles and forum posts and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, people, like, what are you doing? But at the same time, it's like, when was the last time Nintendo fans or even really just gamers overall had something like this to crow about and be like, people are kind of, there's kind of this like problem right now where people are like, oh, I'm looking for a game, and everyone's like, try Zelda. I'm like, I don't want to play Zelda. No, but you should play Zelda. It's like, it's becoming the new Dark Souls of like, oh, it's the greatest thing. And it's like, but you know what? Like, I kind of get why people are like that about this game, because it really is...
Well, it's just like the sports fan whose team has been terrible forever. And they've been beaten up, and they've had other fans making fun of them for all these years, and then finally, they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the old adage is act like you've been there before, and don't... But most people can't do that.
Well, Nintendo does act like they've been there before, but everybody else... Like Reggie's like, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. You think it's really good? I'm like, yeah, it is pretty good, Reggie. Yeah. It is pretty good. But it's like, for me...
But he's the coach.
Right.
And that's the coach on a poor team will do that. He'll have some dignity, but the fans of that team, not so much.
No,
so.
but I just think, to me, playing this is like, see, this is what I knew you had in you all along. Like this is when I play, this is what, when I play Skyrim, and I picture, like, imagine if Nintendo took modern gameplay concepts and took them home and said, like, okay, how would we do this?
Yeah.
How would the old school Nintendo that made stuff like Mario 64?
That's what I was talking about, though. But I don't feel like they did that here. I don't feel like
they got pretty close, though.
I think they got up to parity with everybody else, and that's why I'm excited for the next game. It's like I said, they've built the easel, they stretched the canvas over the frame. Now they need to get out their brushes and get ready to paint.
Right. I think it's just. I feel like this game probably should have been 2 or 3 games after Ocarina.
Yeah,
like,
instead of
6 or 7. But like,
well, the first time Skyrim came out, or even Elder Scrolls 4, you should have seen that and been like, "This is where it's all headed."
Oh yeah, and of course, my question is also, who wants to play Skyrim now?
Yeah,
on the Switch. Like,
right.
Like it's kind of like,
here's what's going to happen: people are going to finish Zelda, and they're going to have nothing to play, and then they're going to buy Skyrim.
Yeah.
Because if you've been a Nintendo-only person all this time, you haven't played games like this.
I mean, Skyrim's going to kind of be like the methadone to the Zelda heroine in this situation. It'll help you down.
Yeah. It's like a step down, right?
It'll help you
on
down
the road to recovery.
You get there.
All right, let's move on. It's kind of appropriate that the next topic is 2017. Matt, could it be the best year ever in video games? So, to kind of set up this conversation, I think most people would agree that the best year on record for video game releases was 1998. I would
agree with that.
And I'm going to quickly run through some people have argued 2006 is another popular year.
2006 is out there. 2007 was good. I mean, there was some good 2000s years, but 98 was crazy.
Half-Life, the first Half-Life, which changed the way.
Well, see, that's the thing is, like, I think 98 had a great lineup. There have been other years with lineups, but every game you're about to list here changed things.
Half-Life, Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, StarCraft, Pokemon, Grim Fandango, Baldur's Gate, Metal Gear Solid.
Mm-hmm. That is an all-star lineup right there.
I mean,
I wish I could have them in my game draft.
I mean, just think about that, how much ground was just shattered with that lineup.
And also, keep in mind, Half-Life, Ocarina of Time, and Metal Gear Solid all came out within like 2 weeks of each other. I mean, that was crazy.
It really was, yeah.
Like that, and just, that is some top-level stuff right there.
I mean, they're games that forever changed the future of the medium.
And I think, I don't think we've seen that this year. I don't think we've seen things that change things. I think we've seen things that refine stuff into a really, really pretty alloy.
Yeah.
And that is a Horizon joke.
Nice pun there, yeah.
Because I mean, Horizon. I have put Horizon on hold to play Zelda, but Horizon is a little more my style.
Oh, actually, that's my question. Which is better in your opinion?
I like Horizon.
You like Horizon better
because Horizon has the combat.
What's up with this fly in here?
I don't know, but it loves the soda. I'm sure someone's keeping track how many times it's landed on the can without me noticing, and I'm still drinking out of it. But I don't care. My immune system is strong. I just there's been a couple times fighting stuff in Zelda where I'm like, if this was Horizon, you'd be dead 3 times now.
Right.
Because it's just, combat is the focus of Horizon,
right.
And exploration's the focus of Zelda. So it's actually a little hard to compare the two in
they are
terms of what
and
I get.
Just a little bit, I guess.
I mean, I certainly get more out of traversing the world in Zelda than I do traversing the world in Horizon. As much as I think the story and world of Horizon is more interesting, but that's partly because I've never been there before. I know what the deal is with Hyrule. I see the volcano and I know that's Death Mountain. It's not like I'm getting there because I want to see how it's different in this game, not because I want to see what it is.
Right.
What are the Gorons going to be like this time? That's kind of like the Zelda conundrum all the time, is how they've mixed them up. But like Horizon, I mean, just the taking those monsters apart and just the visual fidelity and not the monsters, the machines. Again, I keep thinking of those machines as animals. I don't know. They're so well animated. They're so well done. Overriding, the Thunderjaw and making it fight another Thunderjaw. I mean, there's some awesome stuff in Horizon. Some stuff that I feel like, close enough I've never seen before.
Well, I'm also guessing the story is a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, the graphics are far better.
Graphics
on a technical
astounding.
level, it's not even in the same
and
class.
And this is this is one of the things I showed one of our friends when he came over to see Zelda, and I switched over to Horizon. I'm like, oh, by the way, over in Horizon, he's like, oh my god, the difference in the. But I mounted one of these things, and I just walked it slowly past the camera, and you just see all the little moving parts and all. It's amazing.
Yeah. And
it's just it's hard to compare the two, but I just dig Horizon just a tiny bit more.
Yeah.
But if you try to take either one away from me right now, I will kill you.
I'll stab you in the heart.
It's not going to go well for you. I'm not going to pick favorites too much.
So look, I would totally agree. First of all, we're only 2 months into the year.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little early for
March
us to say,
isn't even over. I mean,
right. I mean, March just started pretty much. We're in the first week of March still. But we've already got Zelda, Horizon, Nier Automata, which is at a 9.0 on Metacritic.
That game draft's looking pretty good.
Oh, your draft's looking real good. Mass Effect Andromeda's in a week and a half, and Neo came out, and that has a 9 aggregate. So
we got Persona 5 in April.
Persona 5's, I mean...
Or did they delay that?
No. Oh, please don't say they delayed Persona 5 again. I was at a heart attack. I something I don't...
No, for some reason I thought wait, did they push that to June? I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think
it's just coming out. In fact, I just got an email about review code for it. So it is
good.
It is coming as planned.
So yeah, February through April this year is...
Can we say... without a doubt, the best Q1 ever in the history of video games?
Can't think of a better... I mean,
that's kind of an easy call because up until the last half-decade, no big games came out in Q1. It was all everyone just waited and backlogged it until November, and that's kind of shifted over the last 5 years.
There's always been a couple of good things in the spring, usually, because the summer drought was a thing.
But see, that's what convinced publishers to start doing this, was you'd put out, Capcom was always brave about it. It would always put out one of his AAA games early in the year, and it would go do gangbusters. And I think...
Well, also, all the Mass Effects came out in January until this one.
And I think other publishers started picking up on that. Hey, we don't have to put out a game in November for it to be not just a hit, but a smash hit.
Yeah, the only downside I remember EA saying was they had to send out those hey, remember Mass Effect was really good in January things when Game of the Year voting started to happen.
And that does still happen, actually.
Yeah. Although I feel like Nintendo probably won't have to remind anybody.
I think Far Cry Primal, didn't it come out at a weird...
Yeah, Primal was February or March last year,
But this year has just been a flood.
I mean, Wildlands?
Yeah, Wildlands, its aggregate's an 8.3 or whatever.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
It's pretty good.
And then you have For Honor and I
was expecting Wildlands to have an aggregate of 60.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be moderately panned as just another Ubisoft open world, especially in the wake of Zelda.
The word on the game from most critics is single player sucks, multiplayer awesome. So pick your poison there. If you're not into playing online, then you probably shouldn't think about buying it.
I'm into it, but not right now.
But what I'm saying
I got too
is,
much to do.
in most years, if For Honor and Wildlands came out early in the year, everybody would be talking about those games right now. Everybody would be playing those games right now. But because of these other excellent releases that have come out in the first part of the year, they're like an afterthought. They're like a niche game now. Like, who would have ever thought putting out a game early in the year was putting your game in jeopardy? Think about that.
Yeah.
Because that's what most people do with Q4. They're like, oh, we don't want to go in there. We don't want to go up against Call of Duty, or we don't want to go against like Battlefront or whatever.
Yeah. Now it's looking pretty good going up against Call of Duty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. But also, like, I don't know if there's any time of the year now that's safe. There's just good, and this year in particular.
And the sales are doing pretty well,
They
too.
are. This year, well, I don't know about that. Like, year over year, things are still a little murky, but you look at the rest of this year, and you can just map it out month after month. There's just an awesome, at least one really awesome, at least looking game for every month of this year, and that's just unheard of. And you're right. I think it's going to be tough to ever topple 1998 because so many like genres and things had just started. Like that's when 3D graphics started, and you're never.
It was 2 years after 3D became basically this is the new system. The 3D system started in 95, 96.
Yeah.
And, N64 was 96, and it was like the first wave of games after everybody had sort of figured the hardware out.
Yep. After everyone figured out how to make 3D games.
Yeah. And like you had, look at Half-Life. That's how you tell a story in first person. Ocarina, that's how you do adventure games
that's
in
how
3D.
you just tell a story in a video game is Half-Life. It was really the first, like, cinematic game.
Metal Gear Solid, like, cinematic storytelling in the 3D era. With
Stealth.
Full voice acting. Baldur's Gate. Here's how RPGs work with modern game tech. Pause with real-time. Real-time with pause stuff. Grim Fandango, some would consider the pinnacle of the point-and-click game. Pokemon, some would consider the pinnacle of the turn-based JRPG. Certainly one of the longest-lasting.
And probably will be the longest
adapted that format into a form that it will never die now. Even if all other turn-based JRPGs go away, Pokemon will be there. It's just incredible. StarCraft, like, esports before there were esports.
Yeah.
And Banjo-Kazooie coming back next month as ukulele.
You're right.
Like,
I think the one opportunity the industry had probably was last year, or maybe it's even this year with VR, because it's the next paradigm shift. It's like when we were talking about VR last year and it hadn't come out yet, I always said, like, this is the next polygonal graphics. This is the next paradigm shift for gaming. And it never happened. The software, it still hasn't delivered. We haven't got to that one VR experience that everybody, even Resident Evil 7 didn't do it. We haven't had a
Mario 64 moment yet.
No, it hasn't happened. And it was the opportunity, though, to kind of have that next paradigm shift where you could create experiences that are going to shape things on down the road. And I feel like VR developers have maybe dropped the ball a little bit in that regard.
I think we'll see. Give it a couple years. We'll see if someone comes up with something. Just like if will they have their 98, for VR? Because I think people had to learn, like, a lot of the early VR stuff was basically like, here's the games you've been playing, but in VR.
Right.
And it's gonna, it's like the 3D thing. It's like people had to learn 3D wasn't just like, oh, this is a different way to present 2D games. 3D was a new medium.
Right.
And VR is a new medium.
It is.
And they're going to have to, people are going to have to get their head around that. I think they will eventually. The problem is there's just not going to be nearly enough VR headsets to make the splash that something like Mario 64 Ocarina did.
Yeah.
Because there were a lot more N64s and PlayStation 1s in people's hands than there will be headsets in 2 years, I think.
Yeah. And you're right. Maybe that is the good way of looking at it, is that for VR, it is next year. Because that will be the 2-year gap.
Right.
Although Mario 64 came out of the gate pretty strong.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody else did. Everyone else who's tried to make 3D games, they're all mostly crap. So until 98. That's when everybody kind of figured it out.
Yeah, but I saw, it's like I saw some people talking about, what was it, Mega Man Legends versus Mario 64. How come Mario 64 gets all the credit, Mega Man Legends doesn't? And it's like,
what?
Because Mega Man Legends was not
good.
A good
game.
Like, look, I played that game to completion twice. I really enjoyed Mega Man Legends, but in the wake, that came out a year before Mario 64, and in the wake of, I think it did anyway, it was before Mario 64, because after Mario 64, that kind of control would not have been acceptable,
right?
Because it was still on kind of a grid,
right,
in 3D, whereas Mario 64 really, I also think, Mario 64 figured out how to present that, and people forget before Mario 64 how everyone is just sort of fumbling towards basic functionality in 3D game control.
You're right. Yeah.
Even some, for a while there, Jumping Flash, which is a PS1 launch title, was like that was the gold standard in 3D platforming because it was fun. It was fun, and it used the 3D platforming as sort of a 3D aspect of sort of look how high you can go, and it looks like vertiginous like kind of jumps and stuff like that. And it was a robot rabbit, and who doesn't like robot rabbits? And but at a certain point, like you play Mario 64, and it's just like, oh, this is how this should be. This is how it should be. And like then you go back to those other games, you're like, it's why it's another reason why people like. I know everybody's excited about that Crash Insanity trilogy or whatever, but it's like I could never go back to Crash Bandicoot after Mario 64.
I played it on Uncharted 4. And I played it for like 10 minutes, and I was like, this game is garbage.
And it was almost like, I remember when people used to make you run at the camera, too. Like, I don't know why everybody thought that was a good idea.
Well, I do that a lot in Zelda, actually, oddly enough, trying to get away and drop bombs for enemies.
Oh, yeah, I do that sometimes. I think they're too weak to be worth the effort.
Yeah, they actually don't do much.
No.
And plus, they're smart, and they'll see them and run around them.
Yeah, I've seen.
They'll avoid them. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, some of the more advanced creatures I've noticed, like if I drop the bomb, they'll be like, I actually forgot. One of my favorite things in the entire game is if you disarm an enemy and then you pick their weapon up. Every single type of enemy has a different, completely incensed, like, oh, the nerve, kind of
picking up my weapon.
Like they point at you and like get angry. I was like,
the animation's great.
Love it. Like,
it really is good.
That's one of the most satisfying things in the game to me is stealing a monster's weapon and having them be like, oh, like, like just react to that. Good stuff.
Matt, I think we've established that it's going to be hard to topple 98 just for pure innovation and sort of ground-breaking ideas and features in games. But is there a breaking point where a year has enough amazing games that it can overcome sort of the innovation that we saw in 98?
I think so. I mean,
because I think this year, if there is a year, this might be the year.
Well, I think especially if you were not, our age or a little younger in 98.
Yeah.
Where, like, because that's one of the things about video games is they don't age very well.
Yeah.
And if you weren't
particularly
there...
3D games.
Yeah, if you weren't there at the time, you may not understand why, why Ocarina was such a revolutionary thing or how anybody could play Metal Gear Solid from that viewpoint or like stuff like that. This stuff... That's the weird thing about games, and I think Kojima said this, where it was like, if you watch a movie from 1930, you're still basically experiencing the same thing that people in 1930 saw. You have a common experience with the people who saw it at the time it was released. Whereas a video game, they literally advance how you interact with them.
I think it depends on the movie, because if it's a sci-fi movie from back then, you're not. You're getting little paper models that they're shooting and they're trying to scale it right. In a modern movie, they're using CG to create that stuff.
Right, but that's still
a lot more convincing.
But that's still what people saw back then.
If it's just a drama, sure.
Yeah, but like the storytelling is paramount in what you're seeing there. And again, those flying saucers didn't look any more convincing in 1955. It's just what they had, you know. So you're still kind of in that same realm. Whereas like there's just more ways. There's no better way for a character to talk to another character in a narrative now than there was in 1950.
No, you're right.
But there's certainly a better way to play, Mario 64, maybe Mario 64 versus whatever Mario Odyssey ends up being. Yeah. Maybe that's going to be a more refined thing. It's just, or let's say Daggerfall Arena versus the first two Elder Scrolls games versus Breath of the Wild or Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, people progress, they learn how not to do things in a way that's different than like The Godfather still works, even though cinematic techniques have been developed since then. But like, try to have someone who cut their teeth on Metal Gear Solid 5
go back and play the first Metal Gear. Yeah,
and it's just not the same thing. And that's the challenge of comparing these years. Like, we're going to be like, oh, 98 was incredible because we were the right age to like...
But a lot of people watching this are going to go back and start trying to play some of these games from 98 and be like, Shane and Matt are insane.
Insane. Link's nose is a triangle.
Which we knew already, so no revelation there.
But it's like, it's also like, even if you're a little younger than us, maybe we came up through that. To me, I've said this before, but it's like, no matter how bad a game is now, there's still part of me that looks at it and just be like, I can't believe something looks like this.
I know.
Like, even some terrible...
It's that kid inside.
Yeah, because like, look, the idea that anything would look this... I remember looking at Virtua Fighter 1 and being like, wow, games are never going to look better than that. It's like, he actually has a polygonal nose and eyes. Like, that's like, how could you improve on that? And like you're having seen sort of this 30, 40 year progression of frankly miracles of technology as you move ahead. Like 98 was just sort of this watershed year where it's like so many things we imagined happened finally.
Yeah.
Ocarina, Half-Life, Metal Gear, that holy trinity of like,
I mean, the best part is we hadn't even imagined it possible.
No.
That's what was so great about it. Like, it was far beyond what we had ever
And it kind of
envisioned.
established the sort of the procession of everything had to up the stakes after that. Maybe there weren't new ideas, but everything had to be bigger and better and prettier. And all you need to do to see that progression happening is compare, Metal Gear Solid was a real good-looking game for the time for that system. I mean, there was.
Sure. Well, as far as PlayStation.
As a PlayStation, I mean, yeah, but then jump to Metal Gear Solid 2 being unveiled at E3, and every single time, like, how did they even?
Yeah.
Snake had eyes. Everybody had a fit. It was amazing.
Yeah. Always remember that.
So,
E3.
like, I feel like '98 it was kind of specially positioned to be a year where a lot of things finally changed, finally happened, finally turned the corner. And I don't feel like we're waiting for anything like that right now. I feel like it's just refinement.
Yeah.
There aren't a whole lot of new ideas. There aren't a whole lot of new, other than VR, there's not a whole lot of media to kind of reinvent. So 98 will always be a little special in that regard because it was that watershed year. But like, I'm having just constant fun with these things through. I mean, it's like it's crazy packed, and it's like you look down the road, and there's like, there's so many cakes.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to eat all those cookies? I don't know how it's going to happen, but where it's going to happen. I mean, there's like Wildlands. I'm just like, maybe I'll buy it in the summer. I don't know. I don't have time to play that right now.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way.
I'm trying to think about just like getting in. So Mass Effect Andromeda is on the way. Just talked to EA. That's coming in like a couple days. There's Wildlands. There's Nier. It's overwhelming.
Nier. I thought I pre-ordered Nier. I thought today, you're like, have you played Nier? I'm like, is Nier out? You're like, yeah, Nier came out like 3 days. I'm like, what? Like, I missed it. I didn't even notice.
Yep. I mean, the reviews came out like a week and a half ago or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it's just overwhelming. So, I think one thing is, at the end of this year, I think we're going to come back to this. Mm-hmm. And we'll do like the tally. And we'll be like, hey, this is what came out. Some of the stuff may be groundbreaking. May not be.
And remember, we don't even know most of the second half of the year.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff to be shown at E3 for the first time, I think.
It is true. And, so we'll come back and we'll address this later in the year and see where it sits. But I think right now we're both in agreement that it's going to be tough for a year to ever topple 1998.
Oh, yeah. But this is just, if any year has a chance, I think it's this one.
This is it. All right. Next we're going to talk about, we already talked about Zelda for a while, but now we're going to talk about Switch, because the Switch came out, and over the last week, it's been its launch week. Nintendo has been saying it is the best-selling Nintendo console over the first 2 days ever. Do you believe that, Matt?
I'm surprised by that a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, great. Congratulations,
Good,
first of all.
yeah.
Like, I'm really excited. It's great to hear. But
I mean, I'm certainly surprised it outsold the Wii.
Yeah.
Although maybe that's just a function of how many they shipped. Because I feel like at launch, a Nintendo system at launch, I feel like can probably sell about as many as they can put on the shelves up until like the 5-6 million range. Because I think there's just, the fans want them.
Yeah.
They want them. Although I have to admit, the scalping is not as bad as I thought it would be. People are staying pretty sane when it comes to
I think I told you that last week, that I didn't think the prices, because they're restocking.
Yeah.
And they're messaging that.
Yeah.
Like, it's in the press and in the media. We're getting more stock this weekend. We're getting...
Yeah, more on Friday. They got more. I think there was a second wave of accessory shipments the Tuesday after launch.
Yeah.
So they are actually, I mean, shockingly for Nintendo of America.
Maybe it learned its lesson with the NES Classic.
Now they can learn the lesson about Animal Crossing amiibos. No. Yeah. No one wants that. More Metroids.
So... do you believe that it's the best-selling Nintendo console ever?
I don't think they're lying. You think they're lying?
I don't know, man. That seems really far-fetched to me.
I mean, it might be some really clever math.
I mean, the Wii was like... I don't know if I've ever seen anything like the Wii, except for maybe like Pokemon Go. That's probably the only other thing that I've seen just take over everything. Not just gamers, but like everybody. Like my mom and nursing homes, like... there are certain things that break that limit of, like, something we like and something everybody likes. And the Wii was just so freaking massive. And right out of the gate, like as soon as it was shown, people were like all in. And I just don't get that. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Is that kind of a response?
Well, the response isn't quite like that because I've gotten enough of my like casual friends texting me this week going like, wait, is the new Zelda out?
I had one friend text me and say, hey, should I get Switch and Zelda for my 7-year-old son? And I told him your 7-year-old son will kill himself trying to get through Zelda. I mean, that's the crazy thing about that game is like...
Oh, kids are pretty good.
Man, I don't know.
I
think for a 7-year-old it might be too much.
Man, I played some hard stuff on the Apple IIe when I was a kid, mainly because most of it was not well explained. Took me a year to beat Conan.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. Freaking level 3. But like... When you're a kid and all you have is that one game, you just throw yourself at it over and over again. And Zelda,
you never get tired
Zelda,
of it.
man, like much like The Witcher 3, like you want to talk about bang for your $60.
Yeah.
Like that game
you get your money's worth.
will keep you busy for a month if you play it incessantly. If you play it like a normal human being, it probably lasts you for the rest of the year.
And I think Nintendo needs to hope that happens.
Oh, yeah, it was the right game to launch in March when you've got nothing but remakes coming up until November.
Because that's kind of the other part of this is, okay, Nintendo had a good first 2 days, and they're probably going to have a great first month. But what happens after that when everyone finishes Zelda?
They really hope Mario Kart catches... I've seen some commercials finally for Mario Kart 8.
Oh, they're promoting Mario Kart hard.
Yeah, and like...
I'm just wondering how many people bought a Switch that didn't own a Wii U, I guess is what I'm
Well, that's the thing, is like
wondering.
people saying that like Mario Kart and Splatoon are going to like really push Switches confuse me because why didn't they push Wii U's?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, if you didn't buy a Wii U for those, why are you going to buy this for it? I guess it's a more compelling piece of hardware in some respects.
What would you venture to guess is the duplication rate of Wii U owners with Switch owners in the U.S.? Like, what percentage do you think of Switch owners owned a Wii U?
Like 90%.
You think it's that high?
Really high. Because look, this launch to me, I think, is for the fans.
Yeah.
This is you launch because that's why Zelda is not really a launch title for the mainstream because it's more it's never sold like Mario.
But once it gets to 10 out of 10, it is though.
Yeah, but I don't think it even penetrates that far to necessarily because like Zelda's for us.
I mean, my friend reached out to me about it.
Yeah, but not nearly enough of my friends have reached out to me.
Well, there was one, but that's better than none.
Better than none, but what I'm saying
none of my friends really reached out to me about Wii U. It was like zero.
What I'm saying is that if you're going to launch for the masses, you launch Mario. If you're going to launch for us, the core demographic, the fans, I think Zelda makes more sense. Yeah. So to me, I think this was for also because like it was advertised, but there weren't really enough for like crazy everybody get in line for Christmas things. I think you launched it in March to get into the hands of fans, get in the hands of people who've been waiting for Zelda, get in the hands of people like us, basically, and then you launch it for Christmas with Mario at the like this is the masses are going to get in on the action this November, and I think that makes sense. And that's also why I think Mario Kart's there, and Splatoon 2 is there, partly to make the lineup more appealing to someone who didn't own a Wii U this fall. When you're buying something for Christmas, you're like, oh, we can get a racing game, we can get an action shooter game with the the paint squids and all that's great, Inklings. But I think mainly like it feels like Mario Kart and Splatoon 2 are also there to sort of make the people who also had a Wii U feel like they're not leaving these games they like so much behind. Yeah, because Wii U owners, while there aren't as many of them as Nintendo would like, I feel like the majority of them really love Splatoon. Splatoon is a very, very well played game. Even I don't really have a lot of friends on the Wii U, but like,
I think kids love Splatoon.
I think everybody likes Splatoon. I mean, I don't like Splatoon very much, but like
I don't either.
But there's nothing else like it.
I played it for a couple of weeks, and I was like, it's different, but different doesn't always make it compelling.
For sure, but like it's just there are still people that play it. There's people I saw on NeoGAF that have thousands of hours on Splatoon. Like that's what they play every night.
Hardcore Nintendo fans,
right? But that's who I think bought this thing. And there's the people that don't want to give up their Splatoon. So here's another Splatoon for you. Splatoon 2. It's got all the content of the first one. It's got some enhanced stuff. It's right there in the summer. It's ready for you to go. Something to look forward to. It's a reason for them not to wait till fall. Because they're not losing anything by getting this new system.
I think things get treacherous, though, in the holidays in Q4 for the Switch. Because
I think you're right.
And it may happen, earlier than that. Because
I'm talking about strategy, not like what's going to happen.
Because what happens if we get to E3 and Microsoft is like, here's Scorpio, most powerful console ever created, it comes in at a reasonable price, and it launches in a month.
But what's on it?
Right, software is always... But what's on the Switch? That's my point.
Mario and Zelda.
But see, what's on Scorpio is every Xbox One game and every Xbox 360 game.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where that's where it all comes down to, is like, is Mario enough to entice mainstream consumers in there? Because you're gonna, like, we've said over and over, the Wii U taught us that there are 12 million people who will buy a system if it has a Nintendo logo on it. Period.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what's on it. Doesn't matter. You know, that's their baseline. But to make this thing a success, they have to break out of that baseline, and they're hoping that, you know, a decent little library that's built up from March to November, plus the launch of a brand new Mario game that looks a whole lot like that Mario 64 game everybody fell in love with 20-some years ago.
But you gotta remember, Matt, 3D Mario games do not sell like gangbusters. The 2D games are the games that sell well. The 3D Mario games, like, in their first year, a lot of times only sell 2 to 3 million copies. Now, one thing you keep in mind is they are evergreen, and typically as people pick up a Nintendo console, they will pick those up, and so by the end of, when it's all said and done, they'll end up selling 7, 8 million copies or whatever, but they haven't typically been like the hardware moving games.
Somewhat, but there was only, like, you know, 3 of them. I'm not really counting Sunshine because...
Why?
Because Sunshine didn't really scratch the Mario itch for a lot of people. Because it was mostly spraying water at shit.
No, there's lots of hardcore platforming in that.
Some.
Lots.
Like,
there's tons. There was those whole, like, coin challenges that you had to do specifically that were like hard as nails.
Those are the best part of the game, but they were not the meat of the majority of the game. When Mario Galaxy came out, a bunch of people who are, you know, had a Wii but had only kind of dabbled with the GameCube and were disappointed by the GameCube, a lot of them came to me and said, like, hey, this new Mario game, should I get that, or is it like Mario Sunshine again?
But see, that's the thing, though. You look at the install base on the Wii, Super Mario Galaxy sold, like, in its first year, like 2 or 3 million copies. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. It's not...
Because it sold to the core demographic, it did not sell to the people who bought a Wii Sports machine. That's what Nintendo was hoping for, to sell that game to all these people.
They wanted Wii Sports to be a Trojan horse.
Right.
So you can get the Wii into the home, and then once you get it into the home, then you market everything else that you have for it, and it didn't work.
Right. Like, the plan, I'm sure, was to have Mario Galaxy have an attach rate similar to Mario 3.
Right.
You know, which, like, what, 70% of NES owners bought that game?
It would have sold, like, 110 million copies.
Yeah.
Which is pie in the sky stuff.
Yeah, but in the end, Mario Galaxy sold to about 10% of Wii owners, which is crazy because it's great.
Yeah.
Like, it should have had much more. Like,
Matt,
anyone
what do you think of all the hardware issues? What kind of impact do you think it's going to have? You actually sent me the compilation of... I was shocked by that video, by the way.
The Croby Cat
Yeah.
thing.
I mean,
I
am still having problems with my left Joy-Con.
Mine, I'll be honest, mine is flawless.
I'm
not
very
a single
happy for
problem.
You. I'm so happy for
you.
you.
I lucked out, apparently.
So I was recording Bad Dudes for Zelda, and literally, some people haven't watched it because obviously I'm fighting the last boss in Zelda. People are going to want to wait until after they've finished it to watch it. But literally, in the first 5 minutes of that video, my left Joy-Con goes out. And I've got to tell you, Matt, when I was recording that, my Switch was sitting right here.
Wow.
And I am sitting right here.
I have had one disconnection, and it is with this, the Pro Controller.
Whoa.
I had it plugged in to my laptop to charge, and suddenly everything just stopped and did the exact same thing. The light on the bottom turned orange, and I had to back out and reconnect, and it did it a little bit again. I had a little bit of input problems later again. It's always when it's plugged in.
Wow.
I have to basically play it wireless.
And keep in mind, this was in the back bedroom of my apartment, where there isn't a ton of other electronics. I have my PC on, I have my computer monitor running, I have a monitor for the system and the Switch, and that's it.
Yeah, mine is...
I just think I have a defective unit. I mean, that just might be what it is.
Mine is about 8 feet away from me, and I am playing, like, I never had a single connection issue with these at all. I can do the thing where I put it, like, behind my back, and it
breaks up a little.
It breaks up a little bit. But I'm playing like that, and I'm playing it with it down in my lap behind a laptop.
Right.
So my MacBook is between it and the Switch. I mean, the signal's going through that. Not a single issue.
It's really bizarre.
It seems to be a per Joy-Con thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know
what do you think the impact of all this? Because that video, we've curated it on Sifted. It was just a compilation, like 10 minutes straight of different people Some of those issues, holy cow, man.
I mean, a lot of.
Did you see the one where it just started squealing?
Oh, it made that noise like a bad sci-fi movie would use that sound effect for a computer breaking.
Torture people or whatever.
It was like computers don't really make that beep 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 beep. No, it was like the Ellen.
No, it was just a high pitched whine. It was just going.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "What the f?" Is
going
on?
That. Yeah. There's another guy. It was all glitching out. It was like. It sounded like a '50s like sci-fi console or something.
Do you think any of this has an impact? I don't remember seeing videos like this of other systems. Do you?
Yeah, I've seen some, and maybe not like quite as dramatic in some of those ways, but like, I mean, it's a handful. That many videos. What was that like?
The way things get handed around virally today,
right.
like.
It didn't. People had already heard about the Joy-Con issues before the system came out. Apparently, nobody had a problem keeping their pre-orders. Yeah. So, I mean. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is the honeymoon period right now. Like you said, like all the Nintendo fans are going to go out and buy it. We just know that. And the rubber hits the road here in like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, the rubber hits the screen sooner than that, judging by all the scratching that people are running into.
Do you think it has an effect? Because, like, another video that we curated was a drop test and a scratch test. And the Switch did great in the drop test. Holy cow, man. Like, they showed it in, like, slow motion. The thing almost bent in half and, like, snapped back up. And it was, I think it lasted, like, 5 or 6 drops.
Yeah, it's more durable than I thought it would be. It's certainly more durable than it feels.
Yeah. And then there was a scratch test where it didn't fare as well because it has a plastic screen instead of glass.
Which is stupid.
It is stupid. And then someone in the comments on Sifted said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they like wasted whatever money and just ruined it." And then you go and you look at the video, and it's done 800,000 views.
Yeah.
And they've made like 4 times what they spent on that Switch to make that video and put it on YouTube. So,
but that you always get
the point I'm getting at is that it was viewed 800,000 times within 2 days, and so. Eventually, that sucker's going to make it onto Facebook, and everyone's mom and grandma and dad who was going to potentially buy this system for their kids are going to see it. Do you think that ultimately has any kind of an effect on the sales of the Switch in its first year?
Maybe. Like I don't know how much fear of that kind of thing is going to hold someone back from wanting to play Mario. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I was certainly concerned about it, but I still wanted to play Zelda.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're a diehard for who these games matter, I think you're going to dive in, and if you do get a defective one, you're just going to, Reggie put out a statement today where he's talking about contact Nintendo directly. We will make it. We will fix it. We will figure out what the problem is. They were saying that it was not a significant number of people, but I think everybody says that when something goes wrong with their product.
Yeah, you're right. Reggie did come out. He talked to Time today.
Yeah. And then there were further clarifications from Nintendo corporate to Time after that. You see, like, there's updates on the article now where they talk about how it's not a significant number of defects and stuff like that.
Right.
And you got the thing where like people are having dead pixels in the screen, and Nintendo's like, no, that's not a defect in an LCD. Yes, it is a defect in an LCD screen. You just
don't want to recall this.
Right. Well, also, like most companies will not replace an LCD screen unless there's a certain number of dead pixels. Yeah. But they're still defects.
They are defects.
Also, my computer monitor has 8 million pixels, and not one of them is out.
Right.
Whereas the Switch, people have their Switches that has like about 900,000.
720p. Yeah.
And it's like you got like 3 or 4 out. I'm like, I paid about as much for that monitor as I did for the Switch. Yeah, so why isn't it working as well?
Yeah.
So I think that, and the worst part, of course, is like if you have dead pixels or whatever, or like a couple people have had the same thing I had when I first bought the first Wii U I got on Black Friday. I got it home and I opened it up and I turned it on and there was 2 pieces of dust under the screen in the touchscreen area.
Yeah.
And, manufacturing defect. So I just took it back to Target and got another one, and then the new one was fine. You can't do that with a Switch, right? That's the frustration. You can't do that with a Switch right now because they're sold out.
Right.
And like eventually that won't be a problem because you just like, oh, something's wrong with the one you bought. You just take it back and get another one from the store. But you can't do that until probably next year sometime because they're just continually going to be in demand, I think, for a while.
Yeah, it's hard for me to gauge whether it's going to have an impact on the sales of the system or not because I don't feel like I've ever seen anything like this. Like the Red Ring of Death didn't make itself apparent for a while. Time. Like, I've never seen something a system right at launch where there was this, like, big-time problem that a lot of people were dealing with. And it hasn't happened during this modern age where there's all these social networks where people are sharing everything and people can get exposed to stuff that 10 years ago even
Well, more
they
and
wouldn't
more,
have.
I think more and more it's becoming self-evident that this system was rushed.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I think it's like
sure
you
they
said
knew
earlier,
about
it's
a
for
lot
the
of
fans.
this. Yeah, well, I'm sure they knew about a lot of this stuff and just didn't have time to get it fixed in time.
Yeah.
And they'll deal with it as it goes. But clearly they had to get this thing out before fiscal was over
Yeah.
for whatever reason, probably shareholder
Paid
demands. It worked.
Yeah. Totally paid off.
So we'll keep going. I do hope they patch Zelda. I forgot the one bug I keep running into on Zelda. Every few days or whatever, the blood moon happens, which
Yeah, I
resets all
hate
the
that,
monsters.
yeah.
It happens like 7 times to me.
Oh, really?
It happens. I've had it happen at 3 p.m. It happens the whole day, over and over, and it's happened during boss fights that reset the boss fight.
I saw that. I saw on Kotaku today. Somebody was fighting the final boss, and it
Yep.
reset in the middle.
So,
of the boss
but I've had the
fight.
blood moon happen.
That's terrible.
I've had it happen at midnight, and then it happened at 12:15, and then it happened at 12:40 in the game clock, like
Yeah.
in the Hyrule clock. It happened like 3-4 times in the space of like 5 minutes, and I'm
Wow.
like, you need to
something
nail
wrong
that
with
one
it.
down, boys.
Yeah. All right, so auspicious start for Switch.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo has gone about as good as
Well,
Nintendo could have hoped, other than the Joy-Con
Sort of.
issue.
God, the air conditioners make my nose itchy. Here's the thing. I don't think we know anything about how the Switch is going to sell
long
as
term.
going forward right now, because it all sold to people who are going to buy it
No matter what. Yeah.
And we'll know more after holiday sales, I think, especially in terms of the demographics purchasing and whether we start seeing like families and Christmas
I
presents.
think we'll know
and
before holidays. Because look, if after this month it just goes down into the pit.
Well, I'm not willing, even though, I'm a Nintendo skeptic for sure, but I'm not willing to make that call until I see what Mario does.
I mean, Super Mario 3D World, when it came out for Wii U, I don't see this Mario being any different than that.
But that's the thing about this is, like, when you look at this Mario, it is different.
Yeah.
Like, it's strikingly different visually. And, like, I think that'll resonate with somebody. Or it could.
I would argue that it's in a bad way different, but everyone has their own opinion, I guess.
You're maybe not wrong about that. But I'm just saying, at the very least, when I see Mario Odyssey, I go, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? I mean, even if it's not a good what the hell,
Right,
I don't know.
right.
So it at least draws your eye. It makes
does,
your attention.
yeah.
Whereas, like, Mario's new Super Mario Bros. Because you forget, like, the new Super Mario Brothers series is 11 years old this year.
Yeah, I know.
It's not new
It's so
anymore.
funny.
Like, you've seen 4 of those already by the time that
dumbest
Wii U
name
version
ever.
showed up.
I knew it was a dumb name when they first announced it. So
I didn't think they'd stick with it that long. That was
it really
the main
is kind
thing.
of silly. But you're right. I mean, look, Q4 could be the death knell for this thing, like in year one.
Oh yeah,
I think we can have
Q4 for the Switch could end up just being a big old welp.
But
that's the end of that.
I think we may have an idea here in the next couple months where this is all headed. As people finish Zelda and they're like, what's next? Or people get over the fact that they're not playing Zelda and are like, well, I'll wait. Because there's a lot of people on Sifted, they're like, oh, I'm waiting until the end of the year. Or I'm waiting until June or July, whenever I get my pay, whatever. Those people, will those people stick around after kind of the hype and everything kind of subsides over this thing after the launch? There's a curve here. Right now we're at the top of that curve. Everybody's got Zelda. Everyone's loving Zelda. The reviews are coming out. Then Zelda, it just slowly goes down. And then it's like, what kind of a blip can Mario Kart provide and Splatoon provide to keep interest in it until you get to that Q4 where hopefully Mario gets a big spike. So I think we'll have an idea what's going to happen with this thing within a few months.
Yeah. I mean, I really feel, for me, I'm going to probably just put it in the little case that came with Zelda and leave it there until November. I mean, until Mario comes out.
I'm still holding out hope that Retro Studios has something up its sleeve
for E3 or something
that could potentially come out.
I'll tell you, man, if they can approach Metroid with the same fresh eyes they just came at Zelda with, all is forgiven.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to.
We'll
but
see.
Man, if they have Retro come at us with the Breath of the Wild of Metroid games,
that's what I'm saying. Retro's been quiet for 3 years
Yeah.
now, 4 years. It should have something done. So,
and I'm hoping, and Mario Odyssey maybe sort of lends a little credence to this. If you look at it a certain way so far, I'm really hoping that Breath of the Wild development's been going on forever internally, and I'm hoping that some of the stuff they've discovered and come up with and thought of for that game has sort of trickled down among the whole
open
company.
world Mario,
kind of
Grand Theft Mario.
It really looks.
It looks like it.
A little bit. I mean, I think that's just one area, but like, you know, I understand that your skepticism towards New Donk City.
Yes.
But overall, I have to look at that and think that like, oh, there's something. I mean,
what the hell is
once
that?
I get past my feeling, like, oh my god, it looks like Sonic Adventure.
For like Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, yeah, it's like because like New York, because like New York and King Kong and Donkey Kong climbs. I don't know, dude. I don't know what they're doing over there. But Mario's always been like some kind of weird, you know, shroom trip. So screw it, you know.
Yeah, let's keep it that way. That's what I like about Mario. When you go to New York City, there's nothing shroomy about that. So, all right, let's move on. Next, we're going to talk about...
Maybe it's Mario waking up briefly.
to reality.
Oh, God, gotta go back to the Mushroom Kingdom.
How funny would that be? Now we're talking. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk about Destiny 2. We're finally starting to get some details trickling in about Bungie's next MMO shooter. Matt, you have played more Destiny than probably anyone I know, so I don't think there's anyone more qualified to share their take on what we found out about Destiny 2. So the big news is that none of your leveling or progression that you've created in the first Destiny will carry over to Destiny 2. The only thing that will carry over is the cosmetics of your character. How do you feel about that, Matt? As someone who has dumped hundreds of hours into Destiny.
I don't remember what my character looks like.
Really?
She's had a helmet on since 2015.
Right,
I don't remember which. I think she's blue, and I think she has purple hair, but I don't remember what she looks like.
So you don't care that the cosmetics are carrying?
Of course not. The character creation wasn't even.
You can always change it anyway. Yeah. It's like
the character creation wasn't even particularly robust. It was like you picked up from a bunch of different faces and picked some hair and go. Like it was. I'm not attached to my character. I'm attached to my gear, you jerks.
Because this is weird.
You told me this was going to be a 10-year thing. Like, your character carries over through the whole thing.
Right, and so here's the thing. Is like, with most MMOs, there's never a sequel.
Right.
It's that, look at World of Warcraft. There's that
There's
game.
just upgrades.
Right, and you keep that character, all that work, it stays, and you don't lose it.
No.
Is this a mistake, Matt?
I think so.
Do you think it's a technical issue they can't figure out how to do it? It shouldn't be.
To me, it sounds like Destiny 2 is so different that there's no way to translate a lot of that over in terms of how the gear works.
And is that a good idea, to make the game so different?
Well,
I mean, I would argue it needs to be different because I didn't like Destiny.
I do like Destiny, but it's a giant grind, and there's better ways to do it.
I mean, I was being a little strong, maybe. I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I would say I was disappointed in it, coming from a team like Bungie.
Here's the thing, like I mean, they've kind of alluded to this. I don't know if they've gotten specific about it yet because I haven't been paying tremendous attention to it. But, like, at the very least, you got to read what people's gear looks like, how many times they've completed raids. I've never completed a raid so far, by the way, so I'm not even...
Wow.
I'm not even...
Surprised to hear that.
I tried to do it early on with, like, a bunch of industry friends, and we just never got through it, and I don't care enough to do that over and over again. But, like... If you've got all this high-level gear, if you've got a bunch of, like, you know, top-level stuff, if you've got some uniques floating around, you got some good exotics, like, I feel like even if it doesn't carry that gear directly over, it should read that and give you some kind of perk or bonus or something in Destiny 2.
Yeah.
Like, not just your character should carry, and maybe they just carry over is the specific word here, in the sense the only thing that remain identical is your character's, you know, appearance, because I think it's like you have to be level 20 to carry over or something. But, like... Or, no, you have to finish the final vanilla story mission, I think it is. But, like, my thing...
Yeah, they're not even just giving you your cosmetics either. Yeah, there's some preconditions that you have to, like,
you have to have gotten
before they'll let you bring your cosmetics over.
And, like, the other stuff, the stuff that doesn't carry over one-to-one, should still give you some kind of benefit in some way. And, you know, it could be as simple as, like, oh, you've got exclusive, you know, unique pets, or... If you have this raid armor set, it translates into, like, you know, this kind of, you know, whatever certain number of units of whatever horrible free, you know, buy to win, pay to win currency they're going to have, because you know they're going to have that.
Yeah.
Or loot boxes or whatever. I mean, throw a whole lot of bones to the people that have been playing this game for 3-4 years. Or 3 years at this point.
This just seems like a terrible idea. Like, to even put out a sequel. It's like, shouldn't Destiny 2, I mean, they can still call it that, just be an expansion pack for Destiny? Like, I've never seen an MMO just end and then say, hey, everybody, now you need to come over here. Like, it's not a part of that business model.
I mean, people have tried it with, stuff like Asheron's Call 2 and EverQuest 2. Remember how bad EverQuest 2 did?
Right.
Like, it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work.
EverQuest 1, by the way, still better. It's still going.
There is one game, though, that I think has been successful. It's an MMO from NC Soft that's like only big in Korea. What's the name of it?
Lineage?
Lineage.
Yeah.
Lineage has managed to create sequels and be successful. But that's it.
Yeah. I think you're right that it probably should have just built on it as a platform. But here's the thing: what they've said about Destiny 2, it sounds like they want to revamp it in a way. They want to revamp it in a way that like Destiny 1 is going to be like the Ocarina of Time to Destiny 2's Breath of the Wild.
Oh.
Like they want to make Destiny 2 a much more open and organic experience. They want when you go to Earth in Destiny 2, they're talking about how like you don't pick from places on a map. You go down to a place and you can go anywhere you need to go. It's all right there. It's all interconnected. It's all one thing. And you get your quests from the hub world, and everybody, the hub is part of the map. Like you don't have to go back to the tower. Like it's all a much more organic unfolding of things rather than this sort of, pick a place, go there. This is the map. Go back to the menu. Jump to this place. Jump to this place. Jump to this place.
Is this Bungie admitting that it crapped the bed with the first Destiny?
To some degree, I think it is. Although, if
it's like we've built this thing that we can't build upon in the way we want to be able to build upon it.
To some degree, the story is, if you believe the story, is that like basically at some point Activision said, stop it, make Halo with MMO stuff go, and like because they were just tinkering around with so many things they could. So this feels like it's probably them making what they wanted to make originally. And Destiny 1
before
in a lot of ways feels like it was a punt.
Yeah.
They had to get something out the door.
So will it change or alter your motivation to get into Destiny 2?
No, not really. I mean,
because I think the other thing too is because it's Bungie. There are some people who don't really care so much about the whole MMO side of this. They're going to buy it, and they're going to play it just like they had bought another Halo game. They're going to play it until the campaign's done. They're going to set it aside and never come back to it. And I think you have a built-in audience of 2 million people who are going to do that. Mm-hmm. And then what percentage of those people can you get to hang on, and how many people do you get hooked into it with over the sort of MMO elements of it?
I mean, I don't know. Like, you got to make it compelling in a way that the first game just wasn't for the most part. I mean, I'm probably in for Destiny 2, depending on what it is, what they show, and how it functions, because I really like Destiny 1. And, I will trade a lot of the, the rare whatever stuff I have on my character in exchange for a revolution in how you present this content, because I think it's needed.
Gerzil in chat says, I've played about 540 hours of Destiny. Holy cow. I'm fine with the fresh start, but I agree. I don't really care about how my character looks. The gear is the important part.
For sure.
Yeah. So it looks like a lot of us are in agreement on this. Look, I still think it'll be a success. I'm not saying the game's not going to do well or it's not going to have any interest.
Even if you just want to give me like cosmetic repaints or something, like if I have like these exotics, you give me a thing where it doesn't give me the abilities of the old gear, but like I can change a current Destiny 2 piece of gear to look like it or something. Like just some way to salvage my favorite things about my character, none of which are, by the way, what the face looks like. I don't remember what she looks. She's one of the blue people. That's all. I have as much attachment to what she actually physically looks like as I do, I don't know, any other character I don't look at ever. Yeah. I'm not grinding for earrings here. Or hairstyles. I'm grinding for helmets and capes.
Yeah. So what would you say your hype level is for, again, as someone who played a ton of the first Destiny, what would you say your hype level is for Destiny 2 right now?
Mid-level, but...
And I mean, think about it. Here's another game that's supposed to come out this year. I mean,
mid-level, but it's like I got to see it. I want to see what they got first. Maybe after E3. I guess E3 is probably when we're expecting them to blow this out.
Or maybe right before. Activision has a tendency to show things like right before E3, do a big press event. Yeah. And that way, like, they get their news out in the open like a couple days before the show kicks off, and then it doesn't get drowned out by everything else. So
yeah, I mean, I'm excited it's actually coming this year. Like, part of me doesn't quite believe that either.
I'm not 100%. I mean, they're still working on DLC for this thing. Bungie's a big studio, but is it that big?
Yeah, well, I mean, the DLC this month is called the Farewell Tour.
Right.
I mean, so clearly, like, they're planning on something this year, but it's
Yeah.
like, does it make it? Does it not?
Yeah.
I feel like it will, but, like, it's just part of me can't, like, wrap my head around the idea that Destiny 2, A, is a thing, B, is coming out this year, and we haven't even seen it yet.
Right.
You know, that's...
Well, I think they're afraid of stepping on the toes of the DLC that they've
Right.
been working on,
Right.
so... That's probably what will happen. This last little batch of DLC will come out, and then we'll start hearing more. I mean, they're already starting to talk about it. Obviously, we got this news, so I think it's coming.
Yeah, they're pretty open about it's happening. So.
Yeah. And Activision hasn't really acted like overlords with Bungie. Like,
Not
it's
really.
been pretty cool with just kind of letting them continue to be who they are. So I'm encouraged by that. After all the hate that goes around about Activision, actually, if you look at how they treat their studios, not so bad. All right.
I like Wolfox 10JC. Character creation in Destiny is bad.
It is. Yeah. It really is. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I never could create somebody that I actually like resonated with in that game.
No, I just recall kind of like being like, yeah, it's fine. She's gonna have a helmet on anyway.
Yeah, I think I just gave up. Yeah. It's like, whatever. I'll just put a helmet on. It won't make any difference. So, all right, let's move on. So last week we talked about the debut teaser trailer for Middle-earth: Shadow of War, and oh boy, we had no idea what was coming. Because they debuted, and I love this, they debuted the game in earnest with like 17 minutes of gameplay. This is how every game should be debuted. I was blown away by that demo.
Well, I mean, I kind of called that a little bit with like, you know, now we're going to be commanding our armies, and we got our own ring.
Yeah.
You
did call it. You totally called it.
Be commanding armies, and like, but like, this thing goes well beyond what I was kind of expecting.
Oh my god, dude! Like, this is immediately for me a contender for Game of the Year. I mean, I've only seen 17 minutes.
Look how high the
of it.
levels go. You can't really see it behind our little next trailer of the week thing.
Yeah.
But like the levels on these fortresses are in the hundreds.
Oh, I know.
And I'm like, how much content is there in this game? Like, what's going on here?
I just was blown away by every part of this demo, man. Like, just how the Nemesis system has just been exploded. Like,
Yeah, they've really taken this and run with it in a way. I mean, basically in a way that I was hoping they would, but I'm not saying I predicted how they'd run with it. But like, they've taken this to an extreme that I really didn't think they had in them.
I mean, look, we were talking earlier about how, you know, maybe it's tough for this year to compete with 98 because there aren't games that have paradigm shifts. Well, this game kind of does have
this
that.
one might have some of that to it.
I mean,
it's true.
Holy cow. Like, I love how you can go in and take a fortress, and then you can choose who you want to put in place there.
And I really like that, like, you clearly, when he starts this, there are members of his army here that you've dealt with and brought to your side, and, like, they have personalities, and they have relationships with him. And like, you know, and there's a point in the demo where they lose this guy, and like I felt bad.
I did. I only got him for 5 minutes. Yeah, man, I am freaking hyped for this game. Like, I don't know if I've seen a demo that's only been 15 minutes and got so excited for a game. Like,
this, by the way, Ubisoft, is how you don't just make the same game again.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, cause damn.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And look, I'm not like the world's biggest Lord of the Rings fan. Like, to me, the property is kind of irrelevant at this point. I don't really care like that it's about Lord of the Rings. Like, no matter what this was based on, like,
as a Lord of the Rings fan, to some more of the movies than the books, but like, this isn't really about Lord of the Rings anymore. Like, it's like you are so far off into crazy fan fiction territory.
Because
now.
what else can you do?
Yeah, you're like, the movies, the story is the story, so why not go crazy with stuff that, you know, who cares?
I mean, the creatures and everything, they're all canon and that sort of thing.
Well, no, not all. I mean, like, there's the Karagors and the Graugs are not canon. Like, you know, they made up a whole bunch of stuff for the first game. And I feel like we would have heard about this secondary war with a Bright Lord versus the Dark Lord.
Yeah.
That I mean, but it's, you know, it's a great premise, and it you know, puts you on equal footing with Sauron, and it's you know, especially because of the tie-in with Celebrimbor, the wraith that possesses Talion is, you know, the guy who helped forge the rings. I mean, so it's a fitting showdown if that's what they're going for here.
I mean, I honestly don't know if I would have been as impressed with this game if I had not just played For Honor. Because watching this Siege compared to, like, For Honor, it's like, For Honor's like a joke.
Well, Depends if you're here for the combat or for the spectacle, I think.
The combat, obviously,
Combat's still the same, more or less. There's a lot of cool, new powers. It looks like.
Yeah, there definitely are.
That is something he could do already in the first game.
Yeah,
but later on, he does that, but he pulls the enemy to him, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, the combat in the first one was passable, not great, but...
I mean, it was basically Batman with a sword.
It was.
Which is, I got no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, I think Batman may have been a little better, actually.
Yeah, I mean, but I think we said before that, like, this is, Shadow of Mordor was basically, like, felt like a tech demo.
Yeah.
And, like, the combat was almost just, like, just take Batman's and kind of, like a Batman light with a sword. It was, like, after a while, I started to feel bad for the orcs I was killing. It was similar to, like in Jedi Outcast, when you got powerful enough that you were just frying stormtroopers by the dozen, and after a while, like, you'd pull, like, all their weapons out, and they all just stand there with their hands up, and you're like, so do I kill them all now? Or what? I feel like I should just leave them there and not, because it's mean, But
that's what I liked about the first one, is that it was unflinching, and it's violent and gory, and a lot of times when you have, like, games based on movie properties, it's like they have to handle it with kids' gloves, and the violence and the gore has to be, like, toned down. Not with this one, as you can clearly see.
Like, are you getting an M for this?
Oh, there has to. You just ripped some dude's head off.
Yeah, but the blood wasn't red, as we all know. That's the difference.
Yeah, I think this game will definitely get an M. It just decapitated, like, 3 people and then ripped the dude's head off.
Not people, they're orcs.
Okay.
Orcs
that does make a difference, though. But, I mean, look, even if you kill zombies violently in a game, you get M ratings, so I don't think that's germane to the discussion. But everything about this demo, and look, I get it. They've waited 3 years to make this demo. Like, this is the most polished part of the game they have right now. They've played this and re-recorded it like 50 times to get everything exactly how. I get all that. I know how they plan all this stuff. Still, that's what every video game developer does. You can't deny how impressive
it doesn't always
this
turn
is.
out this well.
Right, exactly. So I am super hyped, if you haven't figured it out by now, for this game.
And we're not even to the Drake yet.
No, I mean, it just keeps getting better. That's the crazy part. Like, I start watching it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it was just one thing after another. My jaw just kept dropping farther and farther.
And I was also a big fan. Like, we're coming up here on where he, like, runs up against another one of the leaders of the. It's actually a little later on this, but he runs into one of the leaders, and, like, one of your ally commanders helps you in like a last minute dramatic save thing. Yeah. There's a lot of cool ideas here. Like, they're really taking this Nemesis system and going the extra mile with it, which again, like, just here's where that happened. It, again, makes me like, somebody take this and put it in a Batman game already. Like, imagine if the Batman game becomes like earning your way to, like, assaulting like a.
Yeah, there's no way this doesn't get an M rating. There's just really no way. I don't care what color the blood is. Like, it is gory as all get out. But see what I was saying about how the siege in this, how, like, he blew open the sidewall and all the guys come rushing in. Like, For Honor dreams of doing something like that. Like,
yeah, For Honor was just like, is this standard scripted campaign thing. Like,
but it didn't have to be. They could have made something like this, They didn't.
Somewhat, but it's just like, For Honor is a multiplayer game. It's about the combat. This is about single-player spectacle, abusing the Nemesis system. And I find it hard to compare the two of them.
But I love the RPG elements, how much they've been expanded in this sequel.
Shame.
I thought you were going to say Shane.
He shamed him.
But I am really, really excited about this game. I didn't think at this point that anything could just kind of pop up out of nowhere.
Shockingly soon.
Yeah, seriously. I love that. I love that new thing now where it's like, hey, we're going to show you this for the first time, and you're going to play it in 4 months.
Yep.
I'm totally cool with that. Instead of having it drag out for 3 or 4 years or whatever. So,
yep. That's like, it'd probably be out sooner than the next No Man's Sky update.
Probably so. Sadly so. All right, let's move on to our trailer of the week. Our show is a little shorter this week, so we are going to answer more questions from you guys today. In fact, we'll sit here until you guys run out of questions for us. Want to make sure we get our time in with you guys during the week. But our trailer of the week is for not just one game, but for an entire series of games, Matt. a series that's near and dear to our hearts, or at least it was when we were young lads. And that series is Final Fantasy. So Final Fantasy is coming up on its 30th anniversary. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hashtag old. His 30th anniversary is here, and Square Enix has put out a really great trailer that goes back through the entire history of the series, showing all the games that we loved and some of the ones we didn't love quite as much. But it's a nostalgic trip nonetheless, and it's one worth taking. So that's our trailer of the week. Let's roll it. Like a character from Zelda right there. It's so emotional, man.
Yeah.
All those moments.
I'm going to react to that like Squall. ...
It didn't bring up any nostalgia for you seeing all that?
Yeah, like Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah.
My nostalgia for Final Fantasy Burma stops there.
Yeah, 9 installments later. I wouldn't go that far. I think I really
I'm looking
enjoyed
forward
them.
to 12. 12's out. The 12 remake's out this year, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I really enjoyed them up to 9. And then 10 was kind of where the line was
I liked
getting
1.
blurry.
I liked 2, which was 4. And I love 3, which was 6, which is still my favorite.
Right.
Did not like 7. Liked 8 less than that.
I thought 7 was overrated.
Tremendously.
I still liked it.
But again, whatever you played when you were 12, it was the most amazing thing ever. It was not. I was 21, so it was not the most amazing thing I had ever. 9 I like a lot because it was the throwback, the Return of the Crystal and all that stuff. And I really liked Vivi until they decided to drop his entire plot line for no good reason and never mention it again. Until the very end when they're like, hey, you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm all right. And that was the end of it. Like, that's the end of his fucking storyline.
Well, it was like they realized that we never finished this.
Yeah, for a while there, Vivi was like that plot line is like the most interesting thing Final Fantasy's ever done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, you're really looking into like some serious stuff here, and all of a sudden they just drop it,
pay it off.
And then they all go fight death, and that's the end. I'm just like, okay.
Okay, here's some questions from Nolan Elric. Welcome back. Do you guys think Zelda gets a 98 Metacritic if it's the same game but with a new IP?
No.
I say no. I hate to say it, but
part of the appeal, and like you can decide whether you think this is a good or a bad or an unfair or fair thing. Part of the appeal is like seeing this world you've played so many times before realized in this manner. I mean, that's part of it.
I think we may have actually quantified the Zelda bump here. I think we may have actually finally quantified exactly what the Zelda bump is, and it's 0.8. Because
you think it's a 9.2 if it's not Zelda?
I think it gets the same score that Horizon Zero Dawn got.
Yeah.
I think we may finally have
the
nailed it
Zelda
down.
bump is 0.8.
Write it down. 0.8.
That's a terrible 8. What is that?
It's like a snowman. That's the Zelda bump. We know it now. What is the best game demo that you remember playing? Was there? This is from Justin Horman. Was there ever a time you really liked the demo but didn't end up liking the full game? Or how about a demo selling you on a game that you had zero interest in playing beforehand?
Every answer to that is the same game. Metal Gear Solid 2.
Oh, really? The demo disc?
Love the demo. I didn't care about Zone of the Enders, but bought it anyway.
Yeah.
Although I did like Zone of the Enders, so it was a good choice in this. But the only reason I bought that game was to get the demo. And I didn't like Metal Gear Solid 2 very much in the end.
I would say it's like the opposite for me with Ground Zeroes. I didn't like Ground Zeroes at all, but I actually ended up liking Metal Gear Solid 5.
I like Ground Zeroes, but I don't think it hinted very well at what Metal Gear Solid 5 was.
At all, no.
5 was... The actual full game was well beyond the scope of what Ground Zeroes hinted at. But it's interesting that we both had Metal Gear games in mind for that. Maybe because Kojima tends to provide pretty robust demos.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember getting duped too much by any demos. I think maybe that just comes with having done this for a long time.
Yeah.
You learn to look for certain things that I can, like, it's like I was saying earlier, like reviewing games at G4 and X-Play, like I could play those games for like an hour and be like, this is a 3. Like after you do it for a long time, you start to get a feel, and you can glean more out of your limited amount of time playing a game. And that's also the product of going to lots of press events where they hand you a 40-minute demo, and you play that demo, and then 4 months later you get the final version of that game, and you can connect the dots between this vertical slice they gave you and what ultimately became the final game. And I think that kind of builds this almost like a skill set that you have over time to be able to kind of figure out like if this demo is good or not, and whether that demo is going to result in a good or a bad game.
Sometimes that becomes a hindrance to me when it comes to interacting with some of the developers and some of the... Because like you'll play the demo and they're like, oh, you have any questions? I'm like, nope. Like, I know everything I need to know just from playing this. I'm good. I'm good until you got final retail code for me. Like,
yeah.
And they don't like it when you say that.
No, they don't.
They're like, oh, okay.
Killzone 310, Sifted Games, what's in the center of the galaxy? Center of a galaxy. That'd be a sun.
A black hole.
Oh, I guess you're right. Black hole. I'm thinking of... the solar system.
Solar system, the middle of the solar system.
The galaxy. Is it a black hole?
Supermassive black hole is the current going theory, I believe. Maybe not for all galaxies, but it's the center of our galaxy.
I know some people who would say it's them. But do I have one of those on this little sound maker? There is. No.
That's a drum roll.
That's a long time.
Wow.
Oh, man. Let's see. People whose names are green in chat, I could never read them. I don't know why.
Gurzilla asks, do you get... This is a good chance to kind of go back over how Sifted works. Do you get sent all the content on Sifted like podcasts, or do you personally look for all the stuff yourself, or do you have a system that just gets everything automatically?
Oh, wow.
Been a while since we talked about how Sifted works.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be new, because
Yeah.
I've talked about this before. Sifted, the admin of Sifted, I don't know how much you know about websites, but basically behind every website is an admin. Some people call it a CMS, a content management system. But basically, it's the backbone of the website, and it's what you use to create what's displayed on the website. So when I came up with the idea for Sifted, when we built it, we built the admin to do exactly what it does. So like a lot of websites use WordPress, and that works fine for a website where you're just going to post blogs and photos and embed videos. But because Sifted does something very specific that no other website does, we couldn't just use an existing CMS or an existing admin and make it work. So we literally build it from nothing into the admin for Sifted. And a lot of it is automated. So it brings in, our admin brings in all this content into an interface. And for instance, when I wake up in the morning and like I'll curate a lot of times until like midnight or 1 in the morning. It'll be like the last time I'll check and see what's in the admin. By the time I wake up the next morning at like 8 or 9 in the morning, there's like 500 pieces of content in the admin. So you come in and you look, and it's just this list of 500 pieces of content. And if I don't get on that right away at 8 a.m., by 9 or 10 a.m., it's up to almost 1,000 because all the websites are waking up in the U.S. and they're starting to publish content. So that 500 is just stuff that came in from YouTube and Europe, basically, over the course of the night while we were all asleep. Some of you are in Europe, you were awake when that happened. So the admin goes and pulls all this stuff in, and then we have an interface set up where we have this list of content, we can click on it, and we can like get a rough synopsis of what the content is to figure out whether we want to investigate it further to actually curate it to the site. Once we decide we want to bring it into the site, then there's a whole process that we go through with each piece of content where we write our little blurb, which kind of gives our take on that piece of content. Or one thing that happens a lot with websites, and I don't blame them, they have to survive, is that they will give you like a leading headline that won't show you or tell you what you really want to know. So it'll be like, this crazy new weapon in Breath of the Wild, you can't believe it, you'll want to see it. And so what we do is we read the story and we're like, the weapon is a sickle in the blurb. Or they'll say...
I feel like that's not an invented scenario there.
No. It's actually, I did just make that up, but that has happened over and over again. Or they'll say, check out this crazy collector's edition of Breath of the Wild. And instead of showing you a picture in their thumbnail of the collector's edition, they'll just have a screenshot of the game because they want you to click through so they get the ad view. And so we will grab the image of that collector's edition and we'll put it in the thumbnail. And we can do all of this in our admin. And then, so once we do that, we write the blurb, we decide what thumbnail image we're going to use, and we try not to bump out publications' thumbnail images, because sometimes there's reasons why they use things, but usually it's because they want an ad view. So once that happens, we then have to classify that piece of content. We have to tell our admin, what platforms is this related to? Is it Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft? What genre is this related to? What kind of content is this? Is it a feature? Is it a preview? Is it an interview? And then we rate it. And then we publish it. And what happens is it takes all the information that we give it in the admin, and then it takes all the information that you give us when you fill out your SIFT ratings, and it all goes into an algorithm, and then that's how it spits out the custom content feed for each user. So that I haven't explained that in a long time, because we just kind of chugged along for months and months here without anybody asking. So that's how it works. Sifted has been built from the ground up to do exactly what it does. We do go out and manually find stuff because our admin doesn't work 100% with every website. So there's some sites that we have to go out and actually manually look for stuff. But for the vast majority, it does it automatically. And in some cases, we've even gone to websites and said, hey, can you make this tweak to your site so that we can more easily grab your stuff? And shockingly, that has happened. Like Upload VR, Tal Blevins, who used to be editorial, I know he was the EIC, and then he was editorial director at IGN. He just went to Upload VR. I had no idea, by the way. Did you know that? That he left IGN? I didn't know that either. There was no fanfare about that. I don't know why. Tal, first of all, is amazing. He's a great guy. But he just took over editorial at Upload VR. And I had been going there manually curating, checking out their stuff every day.
I look there pretty often just to see what's out.
Yeah, they're probably the best VR website. And so I had been going there for a while, and I saw him post something about it on Facebook, and I was like, yo, I'm like, you're working there. And I just sent him a message on Facebook, and I'm like, man, like, would you do a couple things that would help us out? And he texted me 2 days ago, like, there it is. And so, yeah, it's like some websites are actually working with us to make Sifted work better with it, because it's in their best interest. It's going to get more people to consume their content and hopefully become fans of their content and go there and blah, blah, blah. So that's the CribNotes version of what Sifted does and how it works. For those of you who maybe came in a little late and weren't around when it launched, and I did the whole crazy like launch live stream and all that stuff. So
SJD Swanland asks, I'm a big reader, and I was wondering if there's any series or works by authors you'd like adapted into a game. I would like to see, technical issues aside, I would like to see a Telltale Games series based on Stephen King's Dark Tower series.
Most of the books I read would not work for a video game. I tend to read classics. I hardly ever buy new books. Every once in a while, someone will recommend something to me, but a lot of times they're related to like my business or my personal life. It's like I don't buy, I guess, novels anymore that could actually translate well into games. You know, I think at one point in my life, I probably would have said, "Oh, I'd love to see a James Joyce game," but like, how does that work? Like, that's the type of books that I read. Those are the kinds of authors that I read. So I don't think most of the stuff that I'm into would translate well to games, unfortunately. Again, these green names, I can't read them.
That Japanese dude?
There's like NG199 or something. I can't read it. Matt, you probably answered this question already. Do you think a dual graphics card system is worth the price and hassle?
No. I have one, but no. It's not enough stuff supports it, and the performance boost is really for max level. Like, I want to run, this thing in 4K at 60 frames a second. No, it's silly, really. Everything will, like, the 80 to 90% of stuff will run just fine with a high-powered single card. It's overkill, in my opinion, as someone who has done it and has firsthand experienced that it is overkill.
That's the facts, Jack. Straight here from Matt Calf. All right, I'm gonna tee this one up for you, Matt, from Mike's Q. Matt, I've been dying to hear your Logan thoughts.
I've not seen Logan yet.
Oh, I was just about to tune out and just start having a drink here. I was gonna have a little conversation with Sam while you discussed it for the next 20 minutes, but you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I am way behind on movies because I've been
playing games,
but also busy taking care of my terminally ill cat. So
that's right.
That's basically. I haven't seen. I really want to see Logan and Get Out. I've heard tremendously good things about both of them, but I gotta spend my time with her right now. I'll get to it. I promise. Nolan Ellerich said something about ask about a movie talk show with me. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Let's see. DanBoy90. Shane, have you played any Horizon Zero Dawn? If so, what are your impressions? Nope. I have not. I am starting to play it tonight, in fact. So I'm really excited about that. I finally polished off Zelda, and I can move on to something else, and that something else is going to be Horizon Zero Dawn. So next week, I will deliver my first impressions of the game, and hopefully I'll be at least close to completing it by then, but we'll see. It sounds like it's pretty big. Everyone arguing about Final Fantasy. Mm-hmm. They're really arguing about it. Oh, man. Hippie 2000, does Nintendo have any third-party support at this point? Nope.
FIFA?
Yeah. It really doesn't.
No.
I mean, hopefully these best sales of a console ever stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if it's true or not. Like, if it will get third parties to get stuff on Switch, I don't care.
But that's translating into content like 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
I guess that is really the problem, is that they're not all in already, or yet. They should have been all in a year and a half or 2 years ago and started making games for this thing back then.
But it really feels like Nintendo got the hardware to people late.
Yeah.
Really, you're unveiling the thing 2 months before launch, and one of the only things you could think to put up there is is Suda51 being like, I'm going to make a game on this. I haven't started yet, but
Travis touchdown!
It's going to be great. I'm like, wow, there's nothing. They have nothing.
He ended up having to apologize for that, Suda.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. He's like, I'm so sorry that my presentation was so terrible.
Don't feel bad, Suda. At least it wasn't James Cameron.
I don't feel too bad for him. The guy seems to be doing quite well, and he's never really had a hit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's. I think he's doing all right. I think he's one of those guys that's treated probably better than he deserves as far as his development pedigree. And I love the guy.
I think it's just someone that like people that make games and people that play games look at him and be like, he's so weird. He's so,
You Craig.
Where did you ever come up with that? It's
You
like,
so Craig.
even if it doesn't sell, like you play a Suda game and you come away feeling happy that you actually got to see that.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's see. W. Matthew, what do you think of the fantasy draft status / quick update? Well, I think we had one already.
Yeah.
Matt's looking real good. That Zelda score, man, that's going to be tough to overcome.
Solid. And I feel pretty good about picking Nier over Neo in that. That was the same. I think that was the same round.
Yeah, but they both got the same scores.
Did
They're
they?
both at 9, yeah.
I didn't realize Neo was that high.
Yeah, they're both like
Right.
at 9 or 8.9.
Then I just feel better about not picking For Honor.
Yeah.
I am a little concerned that South Park won't make it this year.
I think you're all right.
I feel it probably will make it this, but it's just like, I don't know. That's the one I'm concerned about.
I know one thing. I have no concerns about any of my games being
No, your
delayed.
games will all make it.
My problem is I just went to complete overcorrection there. I was like, I don't care if this game gets a 5. I'm going to make sure it comes out this year. It's been interesting playing this, though, year after year, and kind of getting burned by one thing one year, and then something, and seeing how like a strategy adjusts, and like it's,
I think your idea you
cool.
had of substitutions might be worth trying next year.
because it does kind of just doom your whole season, and like once that happens,
because you're already
like,
getting to a point where people like on the forums I've seen are just like, oh, Shane's dead, Shane's dead, and it's like because of the nature of having to bet early on things that you know are going to come out this year.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks that like you kind of odds are we're going to kind of know more or less by June.
You could even maybe institute some kind of a penalty where if you bring a game off the bench, you lose a point off of its aggregate score or something. You can find ways. But the other thing is you don't want to overcomplicate
You don't get
it.
too complicated, yeah.
Because, I mean, that's what turns a lot of people off of fantasy football.
Right.
Is that they're like, this is just too much. Like, I don't...
Well, I'll leave that stuff to you because you're the final fantasy expert. You're the fantasy sport expert.
I'm still having fun. Like, I think no matter what, it's going to be probably the most interesting season. Because it looks like we're both going to finish with, like, our full complement of games for the first time ever.
Right.
So...
And we should maybe look at, once this year's over, we kind of see how everything goes and what we know about the following year's schedule. Maybe we could talk about having 2 seasons in a year.
Yeah.
First half, second half. Kind of
That's
thing.
even more difficult. Is the game going to come out in the first half of the year? But it's fun, and look, I hope.
And do you get to carry over to the next season?
Right.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I hope you guys are having fun with it as well. I still don't know how I came up with this idea, but I'm glad that I did. It's been a good time. Is there any more? Played Andromeda, hippie? No. Review code is on the way. I should be getting it any day now, which is driving me bonkers because I'm supposed to start playing Horizon Zero Dawn tonight. So hopefully I at least get this weekend with Horizon before Andromeda shows up to actually absolutely torture me. Sub-level 28 is Friday, the new set day for GameFace, or we'll move about in 17. We're eventually going to get back to Thursday. I still feel like it's the best day to do a podcast. I don't like the fact that when we do it on Friday, the show doesn't really end up going up. Like last week, I busted ass and got it up at like midnight our time. But the last couple weeks, it's been going up like early Saturday morning. Like basically, it's been getting rendered while I sleep, and then I wake up and it gets posted. So I'm not happy with people not getting the show until Saturday morning. I think Thursdays are perfect. I don't have to rush to get everything done. I can post it, and then it's live for you guys on Friday morning. Everyone's totally cool with it as long as I get it on the Friday morning. Because the other thing, too, is when you rush, you make mistakes, and quality suffers. So we want to get back to Thursdays so that when you guys wake up on Friday, the show's there, and you can take it off with you on your weekend as you go out and have fun and do your thing. So, yeah, we're going to get back to Thursdays eventually. Yes, we actually want to do it this week, but Sam had another gig yesterday, so we had to do Friday again.
Sam's in demand.
He is. He should be. He's really good at what he does. All right, I think that's it. So, hope you guys are having as much fun as we are right now with all the games coming out. It's almost overwhelming. And I mean, so much so that it prompted a topic on this week's GameFace to just really discuss just how good this year is. And I still think there are some surprises coming. Again, I would not be shocked if a retro game gets dropped on us at some point this year.
In the back of my mind, I'm still kind of waiting for that Phantom Dust remake.
Phantom Dust, it is coming this year. They already said that.
They said before E3.
Yep. And then you start thinking about Bethesda. Bethesda, I feel, if they're doing an E3 press conference, they've got something. So, I mean, look at what's announced already, and start thinking about that extra icing on top. It's shaping up to be a great year, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as we are. And we're privileged to go on that ride with you. So everybody have an excellent weekend wherever you are. Play it safe, but have fun. GameFace is up and out.